Listening to the system's continuous notifications of shock points being credited, Jiang He, who was diligently working on the development of the next mechanical beast, felt a surge of excitement. Within a mere span of 10 days, he had amassed an impressive total of 55,000 shock points. It seemed that the two mechanical beasts he had deployed had indeed caused considerable distress to the white elephant. At that moment, his eyes sparkled with realization. He had accumulated enough shock points to exchange for the brain domain development elixir. The elixir promised to enhance one's brain domain development by 10%, costing 50,000 shock points. As he perused the description, Jiang Yi felt invigorated. He was eager to discover whether there would be any extraordinary transformations following the enhancement of his brain domain development. He recalled a film from his previous life titled Lucy, where the protagonist, upon reaching a 100 brain development level, became an omnipotent being. Although Blue Star was not a cinematic universe, the prospect of exchanging for the elixir suggested it could yield remarkable effects. Without hesitation, Jiang Yi selected the exchange option. In the next moment, a syringe filled with deep blue liquid materialized in his hand. Following the instructions provided, he injected the liquid into his arm. Boom! A resounding roar echoed in his mind, followed by a sudden disorientation. Congratulations, the host's brain domain development has been elevated to 20. A wave of intense dizziness washed over him, causing him to sway slightly. Jiang Yi, are you all right? A melodious voice called out from behind him. In his dazed state, he turned to see Wang Shanshan. Wang Shanshan? How did she arrive here? No, that is not the pressing issue. The real concern was that Wang Shanshan stood before him, completely unclothed. Is this how today's youth engage in revelry? His thoughts raced as he took in her form. So grand, so fair, so perfectly rounded, and so firm. Her A4 waist, he could only imagine the sensation of holding it. Her legs seemed to stretch longer than life itself. Previously, clad in a white coat, he had only perceived her as an unparalleled beauty. He had not realized how stunning her figure truly was. Jiang Yi gawked at her, unable to contain himself as two streams of blood erupted from his nose. Quickly, put on some clothes. Don't let anyone see. He hastily removed his jacket and draped it over Wang Shanshan. Wang Shanshan looked at him, puzzled, her brows furrowing. What clothes? It's too hot today, so I dressed a bit lighter. Upon hearing her words, the blood that he had just staunched burst forth anew. Lighter? You call this dressing lighter? You might as well be completely unclothed. Such a large entity, bouncing around as it walks. Perhaps I should assist you in steadying yourself. My father expressed concern about your mental state, insisting I come to check on you. Upon inspection, it is evident that there is indeed an issue. You frequently experience nosebleeds, which, from a neurological perspective, may indicate cerebral congestion. Yet, it is understandable. A genius like you, constantly engaging your intellect, is prone to such complications. Rest assured, I shall observe you closely. As Wang Shanshan spoke, she gently pressed down on Jiang Yi's head, urging him to lean forward so she could meticulously inspect the top of his head for any injuries. Jiang Yi once again experienced a torrent of blood from his nose. At this angle, it was all too clear to see things that ought not to be seen. Do not press so hard. If you do, I might just lose my lunch. Jiang Yi exclaimed, covering his nose, suddenly struck by a thought as his eyes scanned the interior of the base. No. This cannot be right. With Wang Shanshan in such a state, surrounded by numerous men in the experimental facility, not a single one displayed an unusual expression. Even someone as lewd as Li Yunfei appeared oblivious. Have they all become like Liu Xiaohui? If their aesthetic judgment hasn't faltered, could it be that there's something amiss with my own vision? He blinked, his eyes widening in disbelief. His gaze seemed to penetrate Wang Shanshan's skin, bones, and muscles, vividly manifesting before him. Blinking again, suddenly Wang Shanshan appeared adorned in a strikingly beautiful short dress. This is X-ray vision. Chapter 49. The Despicable and Shameless White Elephant. The second brigade encircled Wang Shanshan, scrutinized for quite some time, but discerned nothing. Thus she decided to cease her efforts for the moment. Jiang Yi's eye sockets were deeply sunken, his complexion as pale as parchment, and blood had pooled around him. Wang Shanshan, alarmed by Jiang Yi's condition, gasped, Jiang Yi, what has happened? Are you all right? Do you need to go to the hospital? And no, it's nothing, merely a case of malnutrition. Jiang Yi weakly waved his hand, exhaling a sigh of relief. How terrifying it was. He had not been assassinated by the Eagle-S faction, but had nearly met his demise in Wang Shanshan's embrace. Wang Shanshan finally felt reassured, patting her chest. You scared me. You cannot neglect your health for the sake of work. Your health is the foundation of all endeavors. Jiang Yi gazed at Wang Shanshan and teased, you care so much for me. Could it be that you harbor feelings for me? Wang Shanshan's cheeks flushed, and she retorted playfully, impossible. If anyone were to have feelings, it would be you for me. should you wish to pursue me. Perhaps we could discuss it after you emerge from prison. At this juncture, however, a flicker of concern appeared in Wang Shanshan's eyes. I'm also investigating the matter of your wrongful imprisonment. Thus far, I have uncovered little, but I keep encountering some mouse motifs around the estate. Look, I have a photograph here. Jiang Yi focused intently as Wang Shanshan's phone screen displayed an image of a mouse motif. Is this a cipher? With the enhancement of his upgraded vision, Jiang Yi distinctly perceived that within the lines of the mouse design were finely etched, incomprehensible characters. Jiang Yi furrowed his brow, his mind racing. The appearance of the mouse insignia inscribed with cryptic symbols within the Supreme Court may very well relate to the internal informants hidden within its confines. If he could unearth another informant, he might finally clear his name. This matter pertains to his innocence, and he must keep a vigilant watch. Within the Supreme Court, the only individual he trusted was Wang Shanshan. Please keep an eye on these mouse symbols for me. If you come across any, send them my way. I implore you. This is of utmost importance to me. Looking into Jiang Yi's earnest eyes, Wang Shanshan nodded, albeit foolishly. After bidding farewell to Wang Shanshan, Jiang Yi commenced a new phase of his work on the mechanical beasts. With a brain domain development level soaring to 20, his research pace had significantly accelerated. It is said that Einstein's brain domain development level was merely 20. Now, he possessed a mind that could rival Einstein's. Should scientists dedicated to brain science learn of this, they would undoubtedly attempt to capture him for dissection, regardless of the cost. In the White Elephant's main office, Commander Demo sat cross-legged on the floor, one hand scooping up curry rice while the other clutched the latest intelligence. A frown etched upon his brow. Mysterious mechanical beasts had surfaced in the Jiagu and Banhu regions. Suspected to be the latest secret weapon developed by the Dragon Kingdom? No, I refuse to believe it. We are well aware of the Dragon Kingdom's scientific capabilities. If they could truly mass-produce such mechanical beasts, we would have been driven down the mountain long ago. Clearly, even if these mechanical beasts are the latest research achievements of the Dragon Kingdom, they cannot be manufactured in large quantities. Otherwise, there would be more than just a handful in Banhu. Minister Rao of the GF pinched a piece of curry rice and remarked with a furrowed brow, Commander, are we truly considering withdrawing from Banhu? Demo shrugged and shook his head, stating, decades ago, the Dragon Kingdom expelled us from Jiangnan. It took us years to return to this land. They shall not drive us away again. Back then, the Luoluo Kingdom withdrew from White Elephant, ceding the Jiangnan region to us. How could we simply relinquish it? If the Dragon Kingdom were to gain complete control over Jiangnan, their artillery directed at New Delhi would face no hindrance. Do you wish for us to relocate our capital to New Delhi? White Elephant shall not retreat an inch. The Jiangnan region is ours by right. Rao shook his head in distress, saying, but Commander, the military strength of the Dragon Kingdom is formidable. Are we truly their match? Demo smiled confidently, locking his gaze on Rao's eyes, and articulated with deliberate clarity, White Elephant ranks as the 5th military power on Blue Star, merely 3 ranks below the Dragon Kingdom. Do you truly imply that the Great White Elephant, after decades of rapid advancement, remains inferior to the Dragon Kingdom? Thou, in a flurry, shook his head, clasping his hands together, and declared, I understand, Commander. I shall mobilize the entire Asa Legion to reclaim Jiagu and Banhu. Demo nodded with satisfaction, acknowledging the current disadvantage we find ourselves in and the necessity for a clever strategy. Lao's eyes widened in excitement, a smile gradually forming at the corners of his mouth. As you command, General, I shall make the arrangements immediately. Days later, at the Huaqin Pass near Banhu, the terrain was perilous, flanked by steep mountains that left no room for movement. Only the pass itself allowed for the passage of soldiers and equipment, making it a veritable fortress. As Zhang Tao and the soldiers of the 2nd Brigade arrived at the midpoint of the pass with hundreds of captives, a frown creased his brow. Why had the White Elephant chosen this location for the transfer of prisoners? Its defensibility posed a significant risk. If ambushed, we would surely suffer heavy losses. Prepare the drones, ascend the mountain, and scout for any ambushes. Unfortunately, a large contingent of White Elephant troops had also appeared in the southern region, and the few available reconnaissance units had been dispatched there. The mechanical beasts could not disembark to assist. With their help, identifying potential ambushers would have been a straightforward affair. Soon, several drones buzzed into the air. The footage transmitted back to Zhang Tao, but his frown deepened. The Huaqin Pass's complex terrain, riddled with ravines, made it impossible to discern any hidden foes. Even if the White Elephant had laid an ambush, he couldn't possibly send the drones to inspect every crevice. That would be an egregious waste of time. Moreover, the intricate mountain landscape would not accommodate the transport of large troop movements. Even if there were ambushers, they would likely be in limited numbers and pose little threat. With this thought in mind, Zhang Tao waved his hand decisively. proceed swiftly through the pass, and remain vigilant for any attacks from the white elephant. The soldiers hastened their pace, advancing toward the other side of the pass. Before long, Zhang Tao beheld the white elephant forces awaiting them at the pass. However, his frown deepened further. This time, the white elephant had mustered over 1,000 troops, completely blocking the pass. They had even constructed fortifications, with several heavy machine guns aimed directly at them. Behind the soldiers stood 5 self-developed Hyong main battle tanks of the white elephant. Zhang Tao narrowed his eyes and gave a cold snort, signaling to the rear. A few Type 15 light tanks swiftly moved to the front. In a mountainous terrain, light tanks suitable for complex operations were far more practical. He had brought 5 of them as well. Kumar, the commander of the Asa Brigade, leisurely stood atop an armored vehicle, his eyes narrowing upon seeing Zhang Tao and his men approach. "My dear friend from the Dragon Kingdom, you have finally arrived. I was beginning to think you were too afraid to show up." Zhang Tao stood up, scrutinizing the indistinct figures of Kumar's soldiers behind him, his brow furrowing. "Kumar, are you here to receive the captives, or to engage in battle?" Kumar shrugged, a cold smile gracing his lips. "Of course, I am here to receive the captives. However, it is not the white elephant captives that we intend to receive, but rather to capture you." With a grand gesture, he summoned a multitude of figures from the ridges on either side. Zhang Tao was taken aback, casting his gaze in all directions. He beheld the ridges teeming with soldiers, numbering at least 1,000. There were even light artillery pieces positioned atop the mountains, slowly aiming in this direction. "Haha, did you not expect this?" Thanks to the covert support of dozens of White Eagle helicopters from Eagle Sauce, we managed to transport over 1,000 men to the mountains in such a short time. I hereby officially inform you to surrender at once or face death. A bead of cold sweat trickled down Zhang Tao's forehead, striking the ground heavily. It was over. He had underestimated the situation. Chapter 50. The heaviness of the Bishi, unfazed by tank cannons. Do not presume that capturing several hundred of our white elephant soldiers gives you the upper hand. I have brought 1/3 of the Asa Legion's forces, a full 3,000 men. You think you can intimidate us into retreating with mere captives? Not a chance. The white elephant shall never bow to the Dragon Kingdom. Kumar, hands on his hips, laughed boastfully. After waiting for a while without hearing Zhang Tao's response, he grew somewhat impatient. Do not be ungrateful. Soldiers, give the Dragon Kingdom a little scare. Let them know who truly reigns over the southern border. Hyong tanks, fire at will upon the mountains. Boom, boom, boom. Several Hyong tanks opened fire at the mountainous terrain surrounding the 2nd Brigade. With a crash, countless rocks tumbled down, injuring dozens of soldiers in an instant. Zhang Tao's eyes widened in horror as he shouted, "Cease fire! Quickly cease fire!" Kumar slightly raised his hand, a victorious smile gracing his lips. Although the accuracy of the Hyong tanks was lacking, and 2 rounds had indeed struck their own men, killing several, this was of little concern. As long as they could instill fear in the Dragon Kingdom, such minor losses were inconsequential. The white elephant, after all, boasts sheer numbers. Surrender or die. Kumar posed the question once more, eagerly awaiting Zhang Tao's reply. Zhang Tao surveyed his surroundings. The area was encircled by the enemy, like a sealed barrel. Even a fly could not escape. He glanced back at the resolute faces of his soldiers. His lips moved, yet no words emerged. "Commander, we cannot surrender. There are only warriors who die in battle, not cowards who kneel in submission. We will not yield, even if it costs us our lives. We shall not allow the Dragon Kingdom to suffer disgrace. Commander, let us fight. We fear not death." Tears welled in Zhang Tao's eyes as he firmly pressed his lips together, trembling as he said, "You are all truly remarkable. Yet, I cannot allow your lives to be lost in vain. I cannot bear that. This infamous mark of surrender shall rest upon me." He slowly straightened his posture, his face flushed, locking eyes with Kumar. "We shall surrender." Kumar's lips curled into a triumphant smile. "Indeed, the Dragon Kingdom has captured hundreds of our soldiers, boasting of an epic victory. Now we have turned the tide, capturing 2,000 of their soldiers. I wonder if they will still dare to proclaim any triumph. Victory eternally belongs to the white elephant." Under immense psychological pressure, Zhang Tao struggled to articulate his thoughts. Just as he was about to utter the word surrender, he was startled by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching from behind. What in the world is that? Kumar gazed in astonishment towards the interior of the mountain pass, where imposing figures reminiscent of small mountains gradually came into view. The soldiers were so taken aback that their weapons clattered to the ground, fear etched upon their faces. "Oh, great Shiva, what have I witnessed? Am I still on Blue Star, or have I been transported to another realm? Monsters are coming." Zhang Tao and the soldiers of the 2nd Brigade could not help but turn around, and upon doing so, they stood frozen in disbelief. From behind the mountain pass emerged three colossal figures, towering approximately 10 meters high and 5 meters wide, lumbering towards them with heavy steps. With each footfall, the ground trembled violently, causing even the debris to bounce. A series of immense, deep hoof prints marked their path. Though their movement seemed slow, the sheer size propelled them swiftly to the rear of the 2nd Brigade. Zhang Tao's jaw nearly dislocated in shock as he stared at these gigantic mechanical beasts. Each creature bore the head of a dragon and the body of a tortoise, cloaked in black, with a massive monument glowing faintly with golden light upon their backs. Just gazing at them invoked an overwhelming sense of an indomitable authority, seemingly drawn from the primordial chaos. Are they foes or allies? Zhang Tao pondered cautiously. Although they appeared to belong to the same class of mechanical beasts as the previously encountered Yazi and Shiwen, he resolved to remain vigilant until their allegiance was confirmed. What if they were mere replicas of the Eagle Nation or the White Elephant? At that moment, a voice echoed from one of the mechanical beasts, belonging to General Hua Qizhong of the Western War Zone. Do not panic, these are your reinforcements. These 3 Bishi are the latest heavy defensive mechanical beasts developed by the Military Science Academy of Shunshi, ensuring your safety. You truly should have been more cautious. We had discerned the White Elephant's intentions long ago. We were unable to reach you in time, and you fell into an ambush. Next time, be steadier. Listening to Hua Qizhong's words, Zhang Tao exhaled deeply in relief. The soldiers of the 2nd Brigade also gasped for air, overwhelmed by the intense pressure emanating from the 3 Bishi. If the previously encountered Yazi represented the merciless reaper of the battlefield, and Shiwen embodied the mysterious elegance of aquatic nobility, then the Bishi looming before them evoked the weight of Mount Tai, instilling a sense of profound shock and security. The Bishi, a formidable heavy defensive mechanical beast, weighs 50 tons and is encased in a 1-meter-thick armor of Xuanwu alloy. Its limbs consist of 4 hydraulic hooves, capable of withstanding impacts equivalent to 10,000 tons when secured in place. The massive steel it carries on its back comprises a reactive liquid Xuanwu alloy, which can transform into a protective barrier, safeguarding a wide area of Allied forces. However, its drawbacks are evident. It moves at a sluggish pace and lacks agility. Nevertheless, the presence of Bishi significantly mitigates the risk of injury to our warriors. Rest assured, we cannot afford to lose this battle. Hua Qizhong's voice resounded once more, igniting excitement among the soldiers. With the aid of the mechanical beast, what do we have to fear? Just moments ago, didn't the White Elephant demand our surrender? Now, I am eager to see who will be the one to capitulate. Let us not be overly confident. The White Elephant has brought 5 H-Yong main battle tanks. Although the Asans are known for their shoddy craftsmanship, the firepower of the H-Yong's main cannon should not be underestimated. A direct hit could level a building. The soldiers murmured among themselves, expressing concern over whether Bishi could withstand the onslaught of the H-Yong main battle tanks. Kumar wiped the cold sweat from his brow, gritting his teeth as he bellowed. Target the mechanical beast with the tank's main cannon. I refuse to believe that a mere handful of mechanical beasts can withstand the might of the tank's firepower. The 5 H-Yong main battle tanks slowly aimed their cannons at the imposing Bishi. One Bishi stepped forward, its colossal frame firmly positioned before the soldiers of the 2nd Brigade. Boom! Its limbs thudded heavily against the ground as its body sank, resembling an iron mountain firmly anchored in place. Is that all you've got? Kumar gestured grandly, and the H-Yong's main cannon erupted in a blaze of fury. Boom! 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 5 123mm armor-piercing shells streaked through the air, crashing violently against the Bishi. Clang! 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 The Bishi reverberated with 5 resounding clangs, sending shockwaves that dislodged debris and filled the air with dust. Direct hit. Kumar beamed with delight as he observed the Bishi enveloped in a cloud of dust. I told you, these mechanical beasts cannot withstand. He faltered mid-sentence, suddenly stammering. For amidst the swirling dust, a figure as formidable as a mountain began to shake, as if shaking off a few fleas. The 5 exploded shells slowly slid off the Bishi's exterior, which was clad in a 1-meter-thick Xuanwu alloy armor. Upon impact, they were crushed into mere lumps of steel. Kumar collapsed to the ground, drenched in cold sweat. Impossible. How could there exist something capable of withstanding a direct shot from a tank's main cannon? I refuse to believe it. This must be an illusion conjured by a Taoist from the Dragon Kingdom. Chapter 51. Unleashing Absolute Defense. Thousands of warriors enscathed, the thousands of Asans present looked on in sheer terror at this spectacle, wishing they could abandon their weapons and flee at once. What folly is this, compelling us to confront such a monstrous foe? By the grace of Lord Shiva, the divine beasts of the Dragon Kingdom have emerged. Will you not take action? It fears not even the main cannons of our tanks. How can we possibly engage in battle? It would be wiser to retreat and tend our fields. Its colossal foot could crush a man to mere dust. Fear not, for we are many. Have you not heard that a multitude of ants can bring down an elephant? Bite? Why don't you attempt to bite it yourself? With such thick armor, you could fire at it for a century and still not penetrate. The soldiers, dismayed, took several steps back, with some turning to flee down the mountain. Bang, bang, bang. Kumar, with a fierce expression, drew his weapon and shot down several, then turned to glare menacingly at the remaining soldiers. Anyone who dares to retreat shall be charged with cowardice, and I will personally execute them on the spot. All units, unleash your firepower. Even if we cannot vanquish these mechanical beasts, we must annihilate the soldiers of the Dragon Kingdom here. Do you wish to return in disgrace, becoming the subject of ridicule? Upon hearing Kumar's words, Zhang Tao's eyes widened in shock. Seek cover and prepare to engage the enemy. Yet the soldiers of the 2nd Brigade stood in confusion. For the opening of Huichin Mountain was scarcely a dozen meters wide, flanked by sheer cliffs, with no shelter in sight. Where were they to hide? Zhang Tao, aware of this predicament, shouted in frustration, urging them to take refuge beneath the bishi for protection against the artillery. Only then did the soldiers react, hastily gathering around the bishi. However, with over 1,000 men, the space was far too limited. Only a few hundred could fit around the 3 bishi, leaving no room for the others. Zhang Tao's face flushed with anxiety as he contemplated the dire situation and prepared to order a desperate retreat for the soldiers. Suddenly, all 3 bishi opened their mouths wide and emitted a resonant roar akin to a dragon's cry. In the next moment, the immense monument upon their backs underwent a breathtaking transformation. Countless fissures appeared upon the monument, from which a soft golden light began to emanate. In an instant, the monument shattered, only to reassemble into a dazzling spectacle in midair. Soon, a colossal alloy screen, spanning 100 meters, enveloped the soldiers of the 2nd Brigade entirely. Concurrently, the sound of enemy artillery erupted violently. Boom, 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 hot, 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 clang. The screen quivered violently, causing the soldiers to tremble in fear, apprehensive that the protective barrier might shatter under the relentless barrage. Listening to the cacophony of explosions outside, the soldiers swallowed hard. Just how much heavy artillery had the enemy deployed on the mountain? It was evident they were determined to annihilate them, with such a ferocious density of fire. Without the protection provided by the bishi, they would have long since met their demise. Contemplating this, the soldiers regarded the bishi with eyes filled with awe and reverence. How reassuring it is to have the might of the Dragon Kingdom's military industry as our support. The gunfire from the Assyrians persisted for a full 5 minutes before finally ceasing. The surrounding grand screen gradually receded, reassembling into a colossal monument, borne upon the back of the mythical bishi. Clang! Countless flattened bullets and shells cascaded from the heavens, transforming into a deluge of steel rain around the soldiers of the 2nd Brigade, gently striking the ground. The warriors marveled at the extraordinary scene before them, wiping cold sweat from their brows with lingering trepidation. Having narrowly escaped death, they felt an overwhelming sense of exhaustion, yet stood resolutely in place. Did we truly fend off the attack of the white elephants? Even now, the soldiers could scarcely believe the reality of their survival. We have survived. Indeed, we have lived. Long live the Dragon Kingdom. Long live the bishi. The soldiers erupted in jubilant cheers, embracing one another as tears of relief streamed down their faces. None wished to meet a suffocating end. It was the bishi that single-handedly withstood the assault of thousands of white elephant troops, granting them the hope of survival. Zhang Tao took a deep breath, heavily patting the sturdy pillar of the bishi's hoof. Clang! A profound sense of security welled up within him, prompting an uncontrollable laugh towards the heavens. Excellent, excellent. With such a divine beast at hand, our southern borders are secure. Imagine a few bishi standing guard at the numerous mountain passes of the southern region. No matter how the white elephants might attempt to breach, they could never succeed. Is this not the epitome of a mobile fortress? If we continue to fortify our position, the Dragon Kingdom shall one day drive the white elephants completely from the south. Once we send them down the mountain, returning will be a formidable challenge. With this thought, Zhang Tao's spirits soared, and he picked up the megaphone to mock Kumar. The power of the white elephant's weapons is rather underwhelming, with so many shells striking our mechanical beasts. Not a single hair has been lost. If I were you, I would have long since hung myself with a rope. The soldiers of the 2nd Brigade burst into hearty laughter, their previous despondency vanishing. Indeed, if I may say, the white elephants should simply roll down the mountain. At least they might preserve a life. Though an Assyrian life may not be valued highly, it is still a living existence. One must not dampen the spirits of the soldiers. I suggest the white elephants abandon their research. What you have developed is truly beyond words. Some soldiers even mimic the Assyrians' dance steps, swaying and grooving. Look at my tank, look at my tank, look at my tank. It's utterly trash. Look at my tank. Look at my tank, look at my tank. It's so weak. My shells cannot shatter. My bullets cannot penetrate. How embarrassing. Thousands of you are utterly useless. A disgrace to the point of being pitiful. Listening to the derision from the 2nd Brigade, Kumar's face flushed crimson. The Assyrians wished they could bury their heads in the ground, their toes awkwardly digging into the earth. It was then that they astonishingly realized that the Dragon Kingdom had not exerted its full strength until now. With merely a slight effort, they had been returned to their true form, unable to inflict even the slightest harm upon the warriors of the Dragon Kingdom. Kumar clenched his jaw and coldly remarked, "Do not rejoice prematurely. Do not forget that you remain encircled by us. With merely these few beasts, you cannot break free. Sooner or later, I shall shatter these tortoise shells, leaving you without a burial place." Ignoring the evasive glances of the others, Kumar waved his hand assertively. "Do not fear. Even the strongest defense has its limits. As long as we continue our assault, we shall surely rend their armor apart. The great white elephant shall not falter here. Keep firing." Reluctantly, the soldiers raised their weapons, hastily aiming at the warriors of the 2nd Brigade. 5 main battle tanks began a reckless barrage against the Bishi. Zhang Tao's expression was as dark as the storm clouds, and he commanded loudly, "Warriors of the 2nd Brigade, strike back with ferocity. With the Bishi shielding us from most of the damage, our lives are now essentially safeguarded. It is time to sound the horn of counterattack." Chapter 52, Capturing 3,000 White Elephant Troops. The old sage Demo spits blood. Zhang Tao retrieved the trumpet left to him by his father, who perished in the anti-eagle battle, and blew into it forcefully. The clarion call resounded, inspiring the soldiers to resolutely raise their weapons and fire upon the enemies. The gunfire erupted like a tempest, and the adversaries suffered grievously under the soldiers' expert marksmanship. Before them, 3 Bishi advanced slowly yet steadfastly, impervious to the onslaught from the 5 tanks, refusing to yield even an inch. The ground shook as the 3 Bishi barreled forward, trampling everything in their wake to dust. Kumar's complexion turned a ghastly white as he stealthily retreated. In the next moment, a resounding crash echoed as a Bishi collided forcefully with one of the tanks, toppling it effortlessly to the ground. The crew within the tank was rendered lifeless from the violent shock. Before the remaining tanks could react, the other 2 Bishi followed suit, overturning them one by one. Witnessing such cataclysmic combat, Kumar could no longer maintain his composure. He scrambled down the mountain, yelling, "Retreat! Quickly retreat!" The soldiers had already lost their will to fight, and upon hearing Kumar's command, they discarded their weapons and followed him down mountain. "The commander is fleeing. We must run too. Kumar, that scoundrel, hides at the back during battle and leads the charge in retreat. What a disgrace to the white elephant. With such divine beasts guarding the Dragon Kingdom, what hope do we have? I shall never fight against the dragon people again. Great Lord Shiva, I offer my 3rd wife to you. Please allow me to descend the mountain alive. Mother, I beg for your blessings to return safely." In that moment, the entire Huoqin mountain pass was strewn with discarded armor and the heart-wrenching cries of the soldiers. The warriors of the 2nd Brigade were at a loss as to whom they should target. At that moment, a series of dragon roars echoed from the mountains. Kumar's heart sank, and he hastily lifted his gaze towards the peak. What he saw sent a wave of terror through him, nearly stealing his breath away and leaving him on the brink of collapse. On the sheer cliff face, unbeknownst to him, more than a dozen vengeful creatures had appeared. These fiends moved with an uncanny agility, swiftly advancing towards the ambushed soldiers. The soldiers trembled in fear, hastily redirecting their weapons in a frantic attempt to shoot at the creatures. However, the bullets failed to find their mark, as the creatures moved with an ethereal grace, evading every shot. Soon, the fiends infiltrated the ranks of the soldiers. In the next moment, a torrential downpour of blood ensued. Witnessing the carnage wrought by the creatures among his men, Kumar slowly sank to his knees. "We are defeated." He removed his hat, clasped his hands together, and shook his head as he implored Zhang Tao, "Esteemed commander of the Dragon Nation, I beseech you to halt these monsters' assault. On behalf of all the soldiers of the Asa Coalition, I surrender to the Dragon Nation. Please treat the captives with kindness." Zhang Tao coldly regarded Kumar, whose face was etched with desperation, and let out a disdainful snort. "Surrender must be accompanied by sincerity. Have your soldiers lay down their arms and surrender." Kumar's face turned ashen, and without hesitation, he discarded his weapon onto the ground. "Lay down your arms and surrender." Seeing their commander surrender, the soldiers followed suit, discarding their weapons. They had long lost the will to fight, yearning only to bring this horrific conflict to a close. It was not a mere ambush, but a total annihilation orchestrated by the Dragon Nation. In the White Elephant headquarters, Demo sat cross-legged, eyes closed in contemplation, a smile of assured triumph gracing his lips. How was the ambush at Huachin Mountain faring? In his intricate scheming, the 2nd Brigade stationed in the Banhu region of the Dragon Nation should have already surrendered by now, right? With a leverage of over 1,000 captives, surely the Dragon Nation would think twice before acting rashly, and would have to obediently concede the AK region to the White Elephant. Should he demand even more territory from the Dragon Nation? Demo's smile grew ever wider. After all these years, he could finally cleanse the humiliation inflicted by the Dragon Nation upon the White Elephant decades ago and rise once more. Next, it would be his turn to personally engage with the senior officials of the Dragon Nation, ensuring their complete withdrawal from the Western Front, with the White Elephant taking control of the AK region. But just then, Minister Rao of GF rushed into the office in a flurry. "My lord at Huachin Mountain." Demo's eyes lit up, and he quickly inquired, "Rao, you've arrived just in time. Tell me, how many of the Dragon Nation have we captured?" "Thou, Banting Hevi Li," replied, "we have taken over 3,000 captives." Demo leaped to his feet in excitement, his agile form betraying his 73 years. "So many. This is splendid. We have managed to capture such a multitude. With such an abundance of leverage, I intend to compel the Dragon Kingdom to cede even more territory to us." Rao's expression fell, and he shook his head, stating, "Lord Commander, it is not we who have captured the Dragon Kingdom. Rather, it is the Dragon Kingdom that has taken over 3,000 of our men. We have suffered a defeat, one far more devastating than before." Demo abruptly halted, his lips twitching slightly. At last, he could no longer suppress the torrent of blood that erupted from his mouth, abandoning his once ethereal demeanor. "Why must the dragon exist if the elephant is to perish? Dragon Kingdom, I despise you." On the other side of Blue Star, in the White Palace, Commander AP listened to Weilon's report, gritting his teeth in fury. "You mean to say that the White Elephant has once again fallen to the Dragon Kingdom?" Weilon, with a pained expression, replied, "To be precise, it was at the hands of Jiang Yi." He produced several blurry photographs, depicting the mechanical beasts Yazi and Bishi. Not only these two models, but there's also another submerged variant, though we have no photographs as there were no survivors. AP's gaze grew increasingly alarmed as he scrutinized the images. Damn the Dragon Kingdom. Damn Jiang Yi. Where does he derive such ingenious ideas to fabricate these extraordinary mechanical beasts? Why must such a prodigy arise in the Dragon Kingdom, while our esteemed Eagle Nation remains devoid of such talent? No, we cannot allow him to continue assisting the Dragon Kingdom. Let our agents hidden within the Dragon Kingdom take action. He must either come to the Eagle Nation or perish. Anything that cannot be possessed by the Eagle Nation is unnecessary. AP's cold gaze swept over Weilon. The White Elephant has suffered a complete defeat on the Western Front. But we must not grant the Dragon Kingdom a moment's respite. Weilon, supply the White Elephant with a batch of our latest stealth combat suits, so they may stir up trouble for the Dragon Kingdom on the Eastern Front. Weilon hesitated. "Commander, are you referring to that newly developed suit that can nearly nullify all detection methods, including the naked eye?" "Commander, this stealth suit is exclusively for our Marine Corps and has never been sold externally. Such cutting-edge military technology has always been tightly held by nations, never to be revealed lightly. What if it is replicated by the A3? AP smirked coldly. "As long as it incites chaos around the Dragon Kingdom, I will accept any price. Moreover, it is not our people who will perish. The more Dragon and White Elephant lives lost, the more advantageous it is for us. Would you agree?" Weilon joined in laughter. "Indeed, Commander. Everything must ultimately aim to slow the Dragon Kingdom's development." AP raised his cola, sharing a smile with Weilon. "May the Eagle Nation remain forever great." Chapter 53. The Wanda region in crisis. White Elephant Special Forces infiltrate. A resounding victory at the Huachin Mountain Pass. The Western Theater has captured over 3,000 members of the White Elephant Asa Legion. Special commendation to all soldiers of the 2nd Brigade of the Western Theater, collectively awarded first-class merit. Reports indicate that this battle resulted in 0 casualties for the Dragon Kingdom, greatly boosting the morale of our soldiers. According to reliable sources, our side has deployed a new type of mechanical beast in this battle, yielding remarkable results and demonstrating the rapid advancement of Dragon Kingdom's scientific prowess. Minister Rao of the White Elephant GF personally negotiated with the Dragon Kingdom regarding the exchange of captives. The Dragon Kingdom has demanded the withdrawal of White Elephant soldiers from the Western Front, the dismantling of all outposts, and a takeover by the Dragon Kingdom. Upon the news breaking, the Dragon Kingdom erupted in jubilation. Countless citizens took to the streets, igniting firecrackers, waving national flags, and singing the national anthem. At long last, They witnessed the grandeur of the Dragon Kingdom. Unbeknownst to them, countless warriors have sacrificed their lives, fervently fighting for the prosperity of the Dragon Kingdom and the happiness of all. Without the guardianship of the frontier soldiers, the Dragon Kingdom would have long succumbed to the flames of war, and they would not enjoy the good days they have now. Truth exists only within the range of cannon fire. The stronger our military, the more weight our words carry. I am truly moved. Let us produce more of these mechanical beasts to provide greater security for the valiant soldiers safeguarding our borders. My heart swells with emotion. I hope that every corner of the southern frontier is protected by mechanical beasts, alleviating the suffering of our soldiers. From today onward, let us increase our efforts to 3 packs daily. The western front of the southern border is temporarily secure, but the larger eastern front remains under the watchful eyes of the white elephant. When shall we reclaim it? I have resolved to forego meals. I will rely on Hua Zi to sustain me. At 2 a.m., in the Military Science Academy of Shun City, in the experimental base, Jiang Yi, with several screws clenched in his mouth and a power drill in hand, was covered in grease as he drilled into a mechanical beast. With the last screw securely fastened, he exhaled in relief and nodded in satisfaction. After more than 10 days of relentless toil, he had finally completed the assembly of a mechanical beast once again. This mechanical beast, with a dragon's head and a tiger's body, appeared truly formidable. It was the freshly assembled Bishi-type command mechanical beast. After inspecting the Bishi from various angles and finding no issues, Jiang Yi leaned against it and stretched his sore back with vigor. After such a prolonged period of continuous battle, even he felt somewhat overwhelmed. Ding! Successfully shocked the upper echelon of the white elephant, gaining 5,000 shock points. Successfully shocked all personnel of the White Elephant Asa Brigade, gaining 15,000 shock points. Successfully shocked the upper echelon of the Eagle Sauce, gaining 8,000 shock points. Hearing the system's notifications, Jiang Yi jolted upright, realizing that the recently completed Bishi had timely arrived at the Battle of Huaqin Pass. Excellent. This means he could soon exchange for a vial of Mind Domain Development Serum. With a 20 development degree, he would possess a brain as formidable as Einstein's and gain the power of clairvoyance. What if he were to enhance it by another 10? The thought was almost too exhilarating to fathom. At that moment, the satellite phone specially assigned to him by the Western Theater suddenly rang. Jiang Yi casually activated the speakerphone, and the anxious voice of Hua Qizhong emerged from the device. Xiao Jiang, we're in serious trouble. The eastern front in Jiangnan is in crisis. The White Elephant has somehow acquired some stealth combat suits, evading all our detection devices, and has stealthily breached our outpost in the Wanda region. The special forces of the White Elephant have infiltrated the territory of Longhua in large numbers, hiding within the dense forests of Wanda, preparing to penetrate into Quona County. The multitude of dense forests and the complex terrain in Wanda, combined with their stealth suits, make it impossible for us to track them down. I find myself at a loss and wanted to inquire if you have any solutions. Hearing this, Jiang Yi's brow furrowed slightly. These Indians, instead of focusing on improving the living standards of their people, are daydreaming about becoming the regional hegemon. This is intolerable. Just in time, I have developed a new command mechanical beast that will surely unveil their invisibility. Have someone come to collect it. We must ensure that the claws of the White Elephant retract this time. They need to understand that some things are not theirs for the taking. In the Wanda region, 30 kilometers north of the Shizhong waterfall, the Vickers squad under the 5th Mountain Division of the White Elephant lay concealed in the dense forest. Under the moonlight, Captain Devi brushed his foot over the moss, erasing their footprints. Surrounding him were 300 Special Forces soldiers armed with various firearms. Thanks to the new stealth combat suits provided by the Americans, we could infiltrate Quona County without detection. The next step of our plan is to enter Quona County under the cover of night, secretly control the county's leadership, and seize complete control of Quona County. Recent intelligence indicates that the Special Forces of Longhua have infiltrated nearby. We must remain vigilant. We are only 10 kilometers from the county town. All units, stay concealed and advance. Devi pressed the button on his chest, and a flicker of light passed over him, causing his figure to vanish from sight. The remaining Special Forces soldiers followed suit, pressing their own buttons, and in a flash of brilliance, all their figures disappeared. The rustling of garments gradually faded, and the forest returned to silence. A few minutes later, several Special Forces soldiers adorned with Longhua insignias quietly appeared in the vicinity. Noticing the faint traces of half-exposed footprints, they promptly contacted their superiors. Report, Captain, we have detected enemy traces 30 kilometers ahead of the Shizhong waterfall. In Quona County, the reconnaissance company of the 6th Brigade under the Western Theater, led by Zhou Zhenghua, furrowed his brow as he marked this area on the topographic map. Analyzing the trajectory of the White Elephant's movements, it was highly probable that their target was Quona County. Could it be? Previously, The white elephant has only engaged in skirmishes with Longhua in the Wanda region. They have never ventured this deeply. Surely, they wouldn't dare to be so audacious? What distinguishes this from a direct confrontation with the white elephant nation? Zhou Jinghua shook his head, casting aside his chaotic thoughts. Such matters were for the higher-ups to contemplate. What concern was it of a reconnaissance company commander like him? His duty was to halt the advance of these white elephant special forces before they reached Quona County. No matter the cost, he must prevent them from harming any citizens of Longhua. He glanced at the 130 soldiers behind him, poised for action, and commanded in a cold voice, "All personnel, enter the dense forest and search for the enemy. Upon discovering any sign of the foe, engage without hesitation." Understood. The Special Forces soldiers immediately stood at attention and dispersed into the forest before them. Private Lu Meng crouched low, making every effort to avoid disturbing the foliage. Cautiously advancing forward, suddenly, the thicket ahead trembled slightly. Lu Meng's eyes brightened, and he stealthily approached the source of the disturbance. He gently pulled back the bolt of his rifle, his finger poised on the trigger, ready to eliminate any enemy he might encounter. 3 meters, 2 meters, 1 meter. Lu Meng's breathing slowed, and his movements became increasingly subtle. He pushed aside the leaves with the muzzle of his gun, preparing to launch an attack. When he suddenly froze in place, what lay before him was merely a long-haired rabbit from the high plateau. Phew, it was just a rabbit. Lu Meng exhaled in relief, ready to continue his search when a sudden chill coursed through the back of his head. Longhua soldier, don't move. Be careful not to let my gun misfire. Chapter 54. The unmatched detection of the Bayan, the crumbling white elephant special forces. He slowly turned his head, a glimmer flickering behind him as a figure from the white elephant special forces appeared seemingly from thin air. What sort of sorcery is this, capable of rendering someone invisible? In disbelief, Lu Meng watched as the white elephant soldier brought the butt of his rifle crashing down onto his head. Longhua special forces are nothing extraordinary. With this invisibility combat suit, no number of Longhua soldiers can match the white elephant. The white elephant soldier dragged one of Lu Meng's legs, slowly making his way toward Quona County. This scenario repeated itself throughout the dense forest. 5 kilometers outside Quona County, within the thicket, Zhou Jinghua watched in alarm as the signals from his soldiers' wristbands continually vanished, sweat beading on his forehead. What on earth was happening? In just half an hour, over 30 signals from the reconnaissance company had disappeared. Had the white elephant consumed some divine elixir? Were they truly this formidable? Damn it, how could he break this deadlock? He quickly summoned the remaining soldiers, instructing everyone to converge at his location. Before long, the silhouettes of the soldiers appeared beside Zhou Jinghua. Gazing at the diminished force of only 60 men, Zhou Jinghua, pale-faced, inquired, "Any news? We have not detected any sign of the enemy. Not a single figure is visible. I only found some footprints, but no one was in sight. This situation is extraordinarily peculiar, as if they have become invisible, utterly untraceable. Could it be that these adversaries have received some divine favor from their deities?" Zhou Jinghua snorted disdainfully. Nonsense. They must have acquired some advanced counter-reconnaissance equipment. However, the current circumstances present a considerable challenge. If possible, I wish to retreat to the city of Quona and hold our ground there. Yet, thousands of civilians inhabit that place. We cannot bring the flames of war to them. He cast a glance at the youthful faces surrounding him. These warriors were still in their prime, some barely having reached adulthood, yet they were compelled to engage in battle amidst this dense forest. Zhou Jinghua sighed inwardly, but maintained a stern demeanor as he declared, "Behind us are the citizens of Longhua. We cannot afford to retreat even a single step. Even if we must perish, we shall do so in this forest, dragging the enemy down with us until reinforcements arrive. Do you understand?" "Yes." Observing the resolute expressions of the soldiers, Zhou Jinghua felt a glimmer of moisture at the corners of his eyes. Scatter. The warriors immediately dispersed without hesitation, fully aware that there was an 80% chance they would meet their demise. Yet they charged forth with unwavering resolve. They hoped to delay for as long as possible. When would reinforcements arrive? Zhou Jinghua wiped away a tear and gazed at the small sliver of sky visible through the canopy, letting out a deep sigh. Just then, a rustling sound emerged from behind him. He rolled away, taking cover behind a massive rock, raising his weapon to aim at the source of the noise. But in the next moment, a spark of surprise flickered in his eyes. For behind him stood a mechanical beast with the head of a dragon and the body of a tiger, quietly observing him from a distance of several meters. Its crimson eyes fixated on him. This mechanical creature was the Bi Huan, recently assembled by Jiang Yi. Zhou Jinghua had long heard tales of the mechanical beasts that had appeared in Jiagu and Banhuz. His admiration for them was profound, and now, witnessing this marvel before him, he was overwhelmed with joy. Reinforcements had finally arrived. Zhou Jinghua joyfully circled around the Bihuan, elated as a child. But soon he noticed something amiss. This Bihuan bore no weapons whatsoever, not even claws. The only intriguing feature was a few protruding objects on its back resembling radar. Could there be some underlying purpose to them? Zhou Jinghua mused. Where are the weapons? Surely it does not intend to rely on physical collisions to defeat the enemy? At that moment, the voice of Hua Qizhong emanated from the loudspeaker on the Bihuan. Do not panic. The reinforcements you requested have arrived. This mechanical beast, known as Bihuan, has just come off the assembly line, brought to you post-haste. As you can see, it is not a combat-type mechanical beast, but rather a command unit. Zhou Jinghua stroked his chin, perplexed, and inquired, Do not jest with me, Director Hua. Our soldiers are currently in dire straits. Every passing second could mean a loss of life. Hua Qizhong promptly remarked, its capabilities do not lie in its ability to eliminate foes, but rather in its diverse array of extensive reconnaissance methods, enabling it to detect any enemy movements. This is truly remarkable. By sensing enemy actions, we can gain the strategic advantage, ensuring we remain perpetually in a position of supremacy. Even more alarming is that no counter-reconnaissance measures can withstand the prowess of the Bihuan. Even the latest stealth combat suits, developed by the Eagles, are rendered ineffective before it. Zhou Jinghua, not one to be easily fooled, quickly grasped the operational utility of the Bihuan. He urged, Let us commence immediately. The soldiers have been eagerly awaiting this moment. No sooner had he spoken than the protrusions on the back of the Bihuan sprang open, revealing a radar and several sci-fi-styled antennas that slowly rose into view. The Bihuan's eyes flickered incessantly, and the radar began to rotate gradually. In the next instant, a holographic screen materialized before Zhou Jinghua, displaying a detailed satellite map of the entire surrounding area of Quanah County. Hundreds of red dots illuminated the map, alongside dozens of blue dots. The red dots indicated the positions of the White Elephant Special Forces, while the blue dots represented the Dragon Country Reconnaissance Unit. As Jinghua focused on one of the red dots, it magnified, revealing a white elephant soldier enveloped in a murky yellow glow, stealthily approaching a blue dot. A mere 10 meters away. Damn it, that's Li Argo. Can we alert him? Just as Zhou Jinghua's words fell, a small screen suddenly projected from his tactical helmet. Before he could fully register the situation, the screen displayed a bird's-eye view of the white elephant soldier behind him and his own position. Li Argo, at your 8 o'clock position. There is a white elephant soldier. Previously unable to detect these adversaries, with the aid of the mechanical beast, they were certainly no match for us. Counterattack now. Li Argo's expression brightened, yet his movements remained composed as he maneuvered around a large boulder. Observing Liu disappear behind the stone, the white elephant soldier Sakuma sneered. Foolish Dragon Country soldiers. They could search for 1,000 years and still never locate us. He stealthily advanced, gently pressing the trigger. However, as he rounded the boulder, he found a gun barrel aimed directly at his head. Sakuma, momentarily stunned, quickly regained his composure. Surely, the enemy must have heard something and is now paranoid, he thought. The stealth suit was so formidable that the Dragon Country Special Forces could never detect his presence. With this in mind, Sakuma stealthily crouched down, preparing to crawl behind Io. Yet, after laboriously advancing a short distance and lifting his head once more, he was startled to find that the gun's barrel remained steadfastly directed at him. What on earth is happening? Sakuma pondered hopelessly why the muzzle of the gun always seemed to be aimed directly at him. It must be a mere coincidence. How could the Dragon Kingdom possibly discover his presence? Just then, a chilling voice echoed before him. Stop scuttling around like a cockroach. It's utterly disgusting to behold. Chapter 55. Distorting Reality, Activation of Intelligent Interference Mode. Upon hearing these words, a cold sweat broke out on Shakuma's brow. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could he possibly see me? Such formidable stealth techniques, and the Dragon Kingdom can detect them? No, he must be deceiving me. He slowly raised his head, attempting to discern any hint of confusion on Li Ergu's face. To his dismay, however, Li Ergu's gaze was fixed intently on his own, unwavering and unblinking. At that moment, Sakuma was utterly convinced that his presence had indeed been discovered. He dropped his gun and stood up slowly, with the help of the simultaneous translator embedded in the Bayan. Sakuma understood Li Ergu's words. Resolutely, he cast aside his weapon, clasped his hands together with a respectful demeanor, and shook his head. Honorable citizen of the Dragon Kingdom, could you enlighten me on how I have lost? Li Ergu sneered derisively, retorting, there is much you remain unaware of. The technological prowess of the Dragon Kingdom is beyond what your white elephant can fathom. Li Ergu advanced to bind Sakuma and began dragging him toward the edge of the dense forest. Come with me. The second-class merit in motion. Similar scenarios unfolded continuously within the thicket. just as the White Elephant Special Forces were eagerly preparing to eliminate the Dragon Kingdom soldiers. The latter abruptly countered with astonishing precision as if they had gained a divine insight. Within a mere half-hour, the Vikasa squad's 300 personnel dwindled to just over 100. Yet, the remaining White Elephant Special Forces presented a dilemma for Zhou Jinghua. These individuals held the lives of dozens of Dragon Kingdom soldiers in their grasp. If not handled properly, those soldiers could very well perish. At that moment, however, the laughter of Hua Qizhong echoed through the air. Do not panic. Bian's capabilities extend far beyond this. With Hua Qizhong's command, waves of electromagnetic signals surged forth from Bian's antennae, precisely infiltrating each White Elephant Special Forces member's tactical panel. 3 White Elephant Special Forces operatives, stealthily dragging 2 Dragon Kingdom soldiers, suddenly heard the voice of their captain, Dewey, emanating from their tactical panel. Your mobility is hindered with captives. Proceed northeast, where I await your rendezvous. Understood. Several White Elephant Special Forces operatives, upon receiving the order, hastily moved toward the northeast direction. Before long, they reached the designated location. Where's Captain Dewey? Why is there no one here? One of the White Elephant Special Forces inquired, puzzled. Yet in the next moment, numerous figures emerged from the surrounding thicket. As they focused their gaze, they were instantaneously struck with terror, causing them to drop to the ground in fright. Emerging from the dense jungle were not the anticipated Dewey, but rather a cadre of Dragon Kingdom warriors, rifles poised and aimed at them. Do not act rashly. We have hostages. Several individuals hastily positioned the captured soldiers in front of them, exposing only half of their heads. The captive soldier bellowed, do not concern yourselves with us. Fire your weapons. Amidst the fervent shouts, Li Ergu raised his hands and slowly lowered his firearm. We shall not abandon any comrade. Let us gaze skyward. Instinctively, several White Elephant Special Forces operatives looked up, only to find nothing amiss in the heavens. At that moment, shadows suddenly flickered beneath their feet. Before they could react, Dragon Kingdom warriors swiftly seized their hands. In the depths of their despair, 2 captives were liberated. Despicable. You Dragon Kingdom scoundrels. Despicable? Liargo Skufa. The superior strategy lies in subterfuge. Your understanding of tactics is utterly lacking. With the sound of rifle butts striking down, several White Elephant Special Forces fell unconscious. All units conceal yourselves, brace for the next wave. Meanwhile, Captain Dewey, observing the tactical panel as communication signals flickered away one by one, widened his eyes in disbelief. Damn it! Damn it! Can someone explain to me what is transpiring? Why are our soldiers going dark one after another? Does the Dragon Kingdom possess stealth combat suits akin to ours? Cursing the Dragon Kingdom, he wondered where they had procured such advanced equipment. If this continues, we shall be annihilated in this jungle. Gritting his teeth, Dewey reluctantly uttered, the plan has failed. All personnel retreat. Just as he was about to issue the retreat command, the previously lost White Elephant Special Forces re-established contact on the tactical panel, reporting, Captain, we experienced electromagnetic interference and were unable to reach you. Captain, all is secure. Shall we proceed with the plan? We have captured dozens of Dragon Kingdom soldiers and discovered that over 30 remaining Dragon Kingdom warriors have regrouped with their commander to the northeast. Shall we proceed with their extermination? Dewey exhaled a long sigh of relief. That was close. I nearly faltered. How could Dragon Kingdom warriors possibly detect our White Elephant Special Forces clad in stealth suits? Those suits are the latest innovation from Eagle Country, imperceptible to ground-based radar. To detect them, perhaps only the most advanced Blue Star Eye radar, exclusive to Eagle Country, could suffice, given the technological level of the Dragon Kingdom. It may take decades for them to achieve such detection. The credit for capturing Ronax County was firmly secured by Vika's squadron. After a moment's contemplation, he coldly instructed, gather all personnel and advance northeast. We must capture every enemy. Understood. With a derisive smile, Dewey pressed the button on his chest, and his figure vanished from sight. Minutes later, Dewey rendezvoused with over 100 White Elephant Special Forces in the northeastern direction. In the solitary clearing amidst the dense forest, several figures were indeed seated or standing. However, due to the obscured visibility of the night, Dewey could not discern their features. Yet, this was not the crux of the matter. The focal point was that this battle could finally reach its conclusion. With a flick of his fingers, Dewey issued a tactical command. Hundreds of White Elephant Special Forces swiftly dispersed, encircling the clearing with unwavering resolve. In the clearing, Shikoma gazed around the pitch-black forest in confusion. The Dragon Kingdom soldiers had bound them, gagged them, and abandoned them in the clearing, after which they had vanished without a trace. He found himself perplexed by the current situation. Were they not afraid that their captives would break free and escape? At that moment, a voice suddenly echoed through the forest. Wavering yet resolute, Dragon Kingdom soldiers, you have been encircled by the formidable White Elephant Army. Surrender, and your lives shall be spared. Shakuma's spirits lifted. It was in a Sand language. Captain Dewey had come to rescue them. He attempted to speak, but only a muffled sound escaped his lips. Ironically, the loudspeaker placed at their center blared forth. If the White Elephant Army is willing to withdraw from Swanna County, we can spare your lives. You have been surrounded by Dragon Kingdom warriors. Resistance will be met with severity, while surrender will be met with leniency. What? Were the Dragon Kingdom soldiers oblivious to the current predicament? It was they who had been encircled, yet they stubbornly claimed that they had surrounded others. You are given an opportunity, yet you do not cherish it. Then let your lives remain here. Dewey, infuriated, gritted his teeth and roared, "Stubborn Dragon Kingdom soldiers. Since they are intent on death, let us fulfill their wish. Open fire, and turn them into a beehive." In the next moment, countless bullets surged forth from the forest. Shakuma could not comprehend, even in death, why the esteemed Captain Dewey would unleash such fury upon them. Dozens of captured White Elephant Special Forces fell into a pool of blood, lifeless and unblinking. Dewey's figure slowly emerged from the edge of the clearing, hands on his hips, laughing heartily. "Ha, did you see that? This is the combat prowess of the White Elephant Special Forces. Your deaths are not in vain." Yet at that moment, a flare was suddenly shot into the sky. Under the illumination of the flare's bright light, Dewey finally beheld the true situation in the clearing. Upon seeing it, his eyes widened in disbelief. Chapter 56. The Crumbling Dewey. What went wrong? Dewey finally discerned that the gruesome dead scattered across the clearing were not Dragon Kingdom soldiers at all. They were all his own special forces. No, this cannot be. How could this be my men? He trembled as he glanced at the tactical panel on his arm. The image on the panel flickered slightly, and dozens of blue dots, which had previously been distant, suddenly appeared at the clearing's location. With a gasp, Dewey spat out a mouthful of blood, exclaiming in exasperation, "What on earth is happening?" His visage contorted with fury. He forcefully removed the tactical panel from his arm and smashed it onto the ground. "Damn it! The panel must be broken. This must be a trick of the Dragon Kingdom. I could not have slain the soldiers of the White Elephant." The image on the tactical panel began to distort violently. Zhou Jingwe's figure materialized on the screen. "This is your final warning. You are surrounded. Surrender and lay down your arms, and we shall treat the captives with honor." Dewey gritted his teeth, his eyes bloodshot with rage. "We have not lost. We are far from defeated. We still have over 100 men, and we possess the strength to fight. Everyone, remain alert and prepare to counterattack." Yet in the next moment, the White Elephant Special Forces, hidden within the dense forest, were astonished to discover that the blue dots representing their soldiers had transformed into red dots one by one. In the pitch-black night, visibility was non-existent, and they relied entirely on the tactical panel for navigation. Now, with the panel malfunctioning, confusion reigned among them. Bang! A gunshot echoed through the night sky, and a White Elephant Special Forces soldier collapsed in response. The remaining soldiers, witnessing the gunfire, were instantly thrown into disarray. They could no longer discern whether the red dots indicated allies or foes. Instinctively, they unleashed a barrage towards the identified red dots. Bang! 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 Amidst the chaos, Dewey shot and killed a White Elephant Special Forces soldier who had fired upon him. Click, click, click! The sound of an empty magazine resonated in his ears. It was only then that Dewey realized the gravity of the situation. He hastily discarded his weapon and shouted, "Stop! Cease fire at once! This is all a ruse by the Dragon Kingdom. We are firing upon our own. Can you hear me? Hello?" However, in the wake of the all-encompassing interference from Abayan, no one was able to communicate with one another. What awaited them was a relentless onslaught from their own comrades. Soon, the cacophony of gunfire around the clearing began to fade. Countless bodies of White Elephant Special Forces lay strewn about the ground. Ironically, in their final moments, they faced their own allies. Bloodied and weakened, Dewey leaned against a massive boulder, desperately attempting to light a cigarette, only to discover that his lighter was lost. His lungs had been perforated and both legs had been shot, rendering him completely immobile. Even now, he could not fathom what secret weapon the Dragon Kingdom possessed that could unveil the stealth combat suits sold to them by the Eagle Sauce, or how they could so precisely discern their movements, disrupting the tactical panel and ensnaring them in confusion. What had gone awry? Suddenly, a faint glimmer of light appeared before him, gently igniting his cigarette. Where had the problem originated? Originally, your invisible combat suits indeed posed a significant challenge to us. However, it is unfortunate that our nation's scientific prowess is equally formidable. We have recently developed a mechanical beast capable of entirely detecting your movements. Had we known this day would come, we would have acted differently. As Dewey lifted his gaze, he discovered before him a military officer from Longhua. Accompanying him was a mechanical beast with the head of a dragon and the body of a tiger. The visitor was none other than Zhou Zhenghua. Dewey trembled uncontrollably at the sight of the formidable beast before him. Had he known that Longhua could produce such a powerful detection device, he would not have dared to set foot in Quona County, even with 100 lives at stake. Now, not only had the plan failed, but the entire Vicus squadron had met its demise here. All notions of glory and triumphant returns were rendered meaningless in the face of overwhelming strength. Dewey slowly knelt to the ground, his head bowed, his expression ashen. Zhou Zhenghua squatted before him and coldly stated, "The White Elephant Special Forces have unlawfully infiltrated Lungwa's territory, nearly causing immense damage. We are now apprehending you. Out of humanitarian considerations, the remaining members of your group will receive full medical attention from Longhua. However, while you may be spared the death penalty, you shall not escape the consequences of your actions. Until high-level negotiations are concluded, you will be detained for a period of time. Whether you retain your life depends on whether the White Elephant leadership is willing to make significant concessions for you." Breaking news: a great victory in Quona County. At 3 o'clock yesterday morning, the Western Theater successfully defeated the White Elephant Special Forces near Quona County, capturing 36 special soldiers. In response to the incursion of White Elephant soldiers into Longwa's territory, attempting to seize control of Longwa's towns, Longwa expresses its strong condemnation. Consequently, high-level discussions between Longwa and White Elephant are underway. The White Elephant has voluntarily retreated 40 kilometers, and the Xizang waterfall region has finally returned to the embrace of Longwa. It is reported that this battle was fraught with peril, and the primary contributor was a newly developed mechanical beast with exceptional detection capabilities. Listening to the report from Longwa's news, the populace was engulfed in a fervent celebration. The Xizang waterfall region had been under White Elephant control for over 60 years. Throughout those years, countless citizens of Longwa yearned to reclaim the Xizang waterfall from White Elephant. Yet, during that time, Longwa was not yet awakened, lacking control over its borders, and could only helplessly watch as White Elephant occupied the Xizang waterfall region. Times have changed, and Longwa has seemingly been endowed with the spirit of a war god, fiercely battling White Elephant to the point of utter disarray. Moreover, it has consecutively regained control over Jiagu, Banhu, and the Xizang waterfall region. This is a momentous occasion for the entire nation of Longwa. In stark contrast, upon the release of this news, chaos erupted throughout White Elephant. Countless citizens took to the streets, brandishing protest signs surrounding the governor's office, denouncing Demo's failed decisions. The reputation of White Elephant has been tarnished by Demo's choices. Demo must step down, making way for a more capable leader to ascend. The Minister of Defense, Rao, known for his lofty ambitions yet lackluster abilities, has stepped down. Even a stray dog, carelessly trampling over the tactical map, would perform better than his command. Demo's face was etched with frost. Since his ascension, he had never experienced being cornered in his office like this. He felt that the dignity of his position as the supreme leader had been thoroughly tarnished by these civilians. He ordered the personal guard to disperse the crowd. These scoundrels, having just received electricity and internet in their village, now dare to oppose me? Relay my command. The public restroom construction plans in the provinces where these people reside are hereby suspended. Let them continue to wipe with their left hands. Soon, anguished cries echoed from below the Supreme Leader's office. The personal guard, wielding riot shields, unleashed a barrage of tear gas. They swung electric batons, leaving the protesting citizens in a state of agony. The people, unable to withstand the brutal beating, scattered in all directions. Demo let out a cold snort. Finally, some peace. He turned to the dejected Rao and reproached him. The dignity of the White Elephant must not be trampled by the Dragon Nation. Use that feeble brain of yours to devise a way for the Dragon Nation to fail, if only once. Decades ago, we were defeated by them. Must we continue to suffer such shame for decades to come? The White Elephant boasts a population of 1.5 billion, and it is time for us to claim our rightful position as the preeminent power in the Eastern Blue Star. Just then, Demo's phone rang. He answered it, and his expression brightened instantly. Minister Waylon, are you saying that 3 aircraft carrier groups from Eagle Nation have secretly assembled in the waters of the White Elephant, capable of deterring the Dragon Nation? With the Eagle Nation's carrier groups as our backing, we can finally engage in a decisive battle with the Dragon Nation. Chapter 57. A surprise assault in the river valley. The Dragon Nation caught off guard. Rao, perplexed, inquired Supreme Leader. Are you suggesting that we should engage in full-scale war with the Dragon Nation? No, my dear Rao. Demo replied with an enigmatic smile, gently patting Rao's head as if bestowing enlightenment upon him. The southern frontier has been the inherent territory of the great White Elephant since time immemorial, and this fact can be attested to by any nation. Moreover, the Eagle Nation's carrier groups have appeared in the waters of the White Elephant. I believe they will not remain indifferent to our plight, will they? What we must do now is seize the opportunity while the Dragon Nation's attention is diverted to the Eagle Nation's carrier groups, and amass our forces to swiftly capture the strategically vital Klong River Valley on the Eastern Front. By the time the Dragon Nation realizes our intentions, it will be too late. What remains will merely be a matter of bickering with them, which is hardly a concern. Rao's eyes sparkled with intrigue as he smirked. Supreme Leader, your calculations are astute. Surely the Dragon Nation would not expect us to launch another counterattack so soon after our recent defeat. Overconfidence leads to downfall. Taking advantage of their complacency, the Klong River Valley will undoubtedly fall into the hands of the White Elephant. I shall mobilize the 5th Mountain Division in secret to advance towards the Klong Valley, ensuring its incorporation into the realm of the White Elephant. Demo nodded slightly, indicating a promising prospect for guidance. In the leadership office of the Dragon Nation, the leader sat behind his desk, meticulously perusing recent intelligence. A knock on the door echoed through the room. Enter. The office secretary stepped in, bearing a document. Leader, the recently assembled 5 mechanical beasts and 1 Lion have been dispatched to Yun Province for narcotics enforcement. Upon hearing this, a smile graced the leader's countenance. No longer shall we witness the tragic demise of narcotics officers at the hands of drug lords. With the assistance of these mechanical beasts, Yin Province will transform into a no-go zone for traffickers. Those who dare to trespass shall meet their doom. It is indeed a stroke of fortune for the Dragon Nation to have a talent like Xiao Jiang, who selflessly contributes to our cause. The mechanical beasts he has developed have alleviated the urgent needs of the Western Theater. Hua Qizhong has extolled Jiang Yi's virtues to me on numerous occasions. My ears have nearly grown callous from it. We must urge the Military Science Academy of Shun City to exert more effort, aiming to equip each theater with a batch of mechanical beasts within this year. The secretary promptly noted this, but continued, there is another piece of news. 3 carrier strike groups from Eagle Sauce have quietly appeared in the waters of the White Elephant, intending to circumvent the White Elephant and approach the Dragon Nation via the Maya Strait. The leader took the document, his brow furrowing. Eagle Sauce seems intent on bolstering the White Elephant. Their predatory ambitions are manifestly apparent. They do not wish to see us subdue the White Elephant entirely, thereby restoring peace to the borders. Let us dispatch our own carrier strike group southward for reconnaissance. Furthermore, we shall launch an intercontinental missile into the international waters of the White Elephant to intimidate Eagle Sauce, dissuading them from any rash actions. The office secretary hastily recorded the orders and exited in a flurry. Within the office, the leader remained, his hands interlaced, eyes narrowed in contemplation. What schemes are you plotting? White Elephant and Eagle Sauce. At that moment, the office secretary hurried back in, his expression now laced with concern. Satellite reconnaissance has detected that the 5th Mountain Division, stationed in the Bandera region, comprising 15,000 troops, has commenced a full-scale movement. The General Staff predicts that their objective is likely the Klong Valley. The Western Theater received this intelligence and promptly dispatched the nearest 1st Mountain Combined Battalion to confront them. However, the remaining forces are too far from the Klong Valley to arrive in time. Relying solely on the 800 personnel of the 1st Mountain Combined Battalion may prove insufficient. The leader's lips pursed, his demeanor grave. 800 against 15,000? We must devise a strategy to halt this 15,000 at the Klong Valley. Otherwise, the city of Na will be in peril, at all costs. The leader's gaze was resolute. Assist me in contacting the Military Science Academy of Shin City. Days passed. The White Elephant 5th Mountain Division. In a makeshift camp, Commander Shizan sat cross-legged, meticulously strategizing potential combat scenarios with his staff. To avert a surprise attack from the Dragon Kingdom akin to the one from decades past that ravaged our Zhanga area, I proposed deploying the 4th Mountain Brigade here for defensive purposes. However, I believe we should seize the opportunity to invade the Kelong Valley while the Dragon Kingdom is unprepared. Only by penetrating the Kelong Valley can we secure ample terrain for a large-scale engagement. Otherwise, the Dragon Kingdom could easily divide and conquer us. Several staff members engaged in a heated debate, causing Shizan to feel overwhelmed. He quickly intervened, urging them to cease their arguments. Stop. I am fully prepared for this assault. The White Elephant is no longer the same entity it was decades ago. We now possess a significant number of armored personnel carriers, as well as advanced equipment, such as aerial support units and drones. Areas that were once challenging for us to strike are no longer insurmountable. I have decided to advance directly into the Kelong Valley, annihilating all outposts along the way. Should we encounter resistance, we shall show no mercy. Understood. The staff promptly relayed the orders. 3 hours later, the temporary camp was dismantled, and a colossal force of over 10,000 began to advance steadily. More than 50 armored vehicles, adorned with the insignia of our allies, thundered towards the mountains. Following closely were 3 infantry brigades comprising 500 soldiers, an artillery brigade of 800, and an engineering brigade of 200. 300 yaks laden with various supplies lumbered forward, while at the rear trailed medical units, electronic warfare units, and maintenance teams. Above, 8 armed helicopters buzzed ominously. At the Tagla mountain outpost, overlooking the Cologne Valley, Captain Dong Zhe of the combined battalion set down his tactical binoculars, his expression grave. The entire 5th Mountain Division has mobilized. All units, prepare to engage the enemy. He glanced at the neatly assembled soldiers beside him, a flicker of compassion crossing his eyes. Brave warriors, the enemy boasts a force of 15,000, while we stand merely 800 strong. This battle is fraught with peril. Are you afraid? The soldiers' eyes shone with unwavering resolve as they replied in unison, not afraid. Dong Zhe chuckled softly, shaking his head. I am afraid. I fear for your lives before me, and I fear the enemy's artillery raining down upon us. Yet, I fear even more the thought of the enemy rampaging through the heart of our nation, oppressing our people. The humiliation of a century ago must not be repeated. Defending our country is our sacred duty. We cannot falter. Warriors willing to sacrifice for our nation step forward. With a resounding thud, all 800 soldiers simultaneously advanced a step, shaking the ground beneath them. By the heavens, a valiant bunch, Dong Zhe exclaimed, momentarily amused before his demeanor turned serious. Assault companies 1 and 2, guard the flanks of the mountain passes. Use your light tanks to block the entrances, relying on your exoskeletons and fortifications to face the enemy. Not a single one of them shall ascend. Yes, sir. The firepower company occupied a strategic position, deploying mortars and swarm missiles, accurately identifying the enemy's gathering points, and preparing to unleash a devastating bombardment. Yes, we must endeavor to delay the enemy until reinforcements arrive. Dong Zhe's expression was grave, his icy gaze sweeping slowly over each soldier. And return alive. Chapter 58. 800 warriors slay countless foes, yet 2 fists cannot match 4 hands. In contrast to the meticulously organized deployment of the Dragon Kingdom's combined battalions, the 5th Mountain Division appeared notably disorganized. Soldiers meandered chaotically along the mountain paths, the weight of their burdens causing them to gasp for breath. After a strenuous ascent to the summit, gazing down at the flat river valley below, the soldiers from the opposing side exhaled in relief. Some even sank directly to the ground to rest. Just a bit more effort. We are almost in the river valley. Look at you all. How lazily you comport yourselves. If you wish to rest, wait until we breach the city of Na in the Dragon Kingdom. Then you may indulge in plunder and pillage at will. Commander Kuma of the 3rd Battalion of the 1st Mountain Brigade cracked his whip towards a few resting soldiers. Crack! Ouch! They clasped their backsides and hurriedly scrambled towards the river valley. Kuma pursued them, shouting, "What is our motto?" To seize money, food, and women. They shouted in unison, their faces alight with excitement. The women of the Dragon Kingdom were undoubtedly more beautiful than those of the White Elephant. Their skin, their slender waists, if only they could claim a few, they would never have to languish with the giant lizards again. Once they breached Na City, they would surely savor the experience. At that moment, however, a shell descended from the sky, striking one of the soldiers squarely in the chest. Boom! Amidst the explosion, several fleeing soldiers were instantly scattered, unable to regroup. Enemy attack, take cover. Kuma frantically searched for shelter, but the mountaintop offered none. Reluctantly, he gritted his teeth and commanded, "Charge into the river valley. We have 1,000 men. This paltry artillery cannot slay many of us. If we can reach the valley and disperse, the enemy's firepower will not pose a significant threat. Charge!" The soldiers, their faces wild with frenzy, surged down the mountain. Across the river valley, the firepower company's soldiers again readied the mortars for bombardment. The observer calmly aimed and announced, "Target acquired. Position, independent tree at high ground 4. Wind at 6. Subtract 30 from the scale. Target, enemy cluster." The firepower company commander set aside his tactical binoculars, gesturing with a sweeping motion. "All units focus. Lock onto the target. 3 rapid shots. Fire. Boom, boom, boom." With 3 synchronized and urgent cannon blasts, 8 mortars simultaneously launched 24 shells. The projectiles traced elegant arcs through the air before crashing into the midst of the descending soldiers. Boom, 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 boom. A tremendous explosion nearly deafened the ears of the nearby soldiers, sending them into a frenzied panic as they scattered in all directions. At least 200 of them were gruesomely torn apart, meeting a tragic fate amidst the barrage of fire. Damn it! Why haven't those imbeciles from the artillery brigade arrived yet? If they don't show up soon, our losses will be catastrophic. And what of the leading armored battalion? They were supposed to have arrived earlier. Where are they now? Surely, they are not preserving their strength, deliberately leaving us to shield against the firepower of the Dragon Kingdom with our lives. Just then, over 50 armored vehicles suddenly charged down from the mountaintops on either side. Kuma's radio crackled to life. "Thank you, 1st Brigade, for covering us from the enemy's artillery. We will avenge you." Kuma slammed the radio to the ground, casting a fierce glare at the cluster of armored vehicles. On the roof of one of the vehicles stood a figure, wearing a cold smile, none other than Captain Laku of the Armored Assault Battalion. He paid no heed to Kuma's thoughts, instead commanding, "Accelerate and charge. We must enter the valley before the next wave of shells arrives." The 50 armored vehicles surged forward, their immense inertia causing many soldiers clinging to them to tumble off, their fates uncertain. On the opposite mountaintop, Captain Dong Zhe observed the rushing armored battalion with a grave expression. "Captain, should we deploy the cruise missiles?" Dong Zhe hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth. "We only have 36 missiles. Once we use them, we will be out. Damn it, it doesn't matter. If we can take out even one, it will be worth it. Fire away." The soldiers hastily rolled out an armored vehicle from the camp, towing a launch platform capable of accommodating 36 cruise missiles. Under the careful aim of the firepower team, the radar on the missile vehicle precisely locked onto the 36 armored vehicles. Launch! Boom! 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 36 cruise missiles shot forth from the launch platform, unfurling their wings mid-air, soaring toward the armored cluster with a piercing wail. Captain Laku of the White Elephant Armor Battalion keenly spotted the incoming missiles, his eyes widening in horror. Damn those Dragon Kingdom soldiers. They possess cruise missiles. Had he known they had such devastating weaponry, he would have preferred to bide his time a bit longer. But it was too late. There was no turning back now, and he had no choice but to gamble everything. As the missiles approached, the vehicles maneuvered to evade. Following Laku's command, dozens of armored vehicles began to wildly drift left and right. However, the soldiers clinging to the vehicles were not so fortunate. Amidst the violent swaying, nearly all were flung off. Some met their demise with shattered skulls upon impact with the ground, while others were crushed by the vehicles behind them. At least 300 soldiers perished in this chaotic drift. One cruise missile seemed to have a mind of its own, relentlessly pursuing one armored vehicle. No matter how it swerved, it could not shake it off. The next moment, boom, the armored vehicle, along with the soldiers aboard, was sent soaring into the sky. The same predicament befell the remaining armored vehicles. With the speed and thickness of the armor of the A-3 vehicles, they were utterly incapable of withstanding the assault of cruise missiles. Within a mere 2 minutes, over 30 armored vehicles met their fate. The few remaining vehicles made a desperate charge towards the flat terrain in the valley. Before they could catch their breath, their tires seemed to collide with something. The experienced driver instantly recognized the sensation beneath him. Anti-tank mines. Boom! The armored vehicle was propelled into the air. Simultaneously, several more vehicles were obliterated. Company Commander Laku's eyes widened in fury as he howled at the heavens. "Despicable Dragon Nation, you have buried mines in the ground." Observing the scant remaining armored vehicles, he could no longer suppress his fear and commanded repeatedly, "Retreat, all of you retreat." Soon, the remaining armored vehicles turned around, fleeing desperately along the path they had come. Seeing this, Captain Kumar of the White Elephant 3rd Battalion chuckled with bitter satisfaction. "Ha ha ha. Let your arrogance be your downfall. Now look, without even encountering the enemy, you have lost an entire armored battalion. Prepare to face a military tribunal upon your return." After a moment's contemplation, he murmured, "The opposing Dragon Nation has only a single battalion, yet they have unleashed such formidable firepower. Clearly, their resources must be dwindling." The main force had caught up, and now was the opportune moment to advance. "Relay my orders, charge." Across the valley, Commander Dong Zhe watched as the A-3 troops surged forth like a horde of locusts, his heart sinking. "How much ammunition do we have left?" A soldier from the firepower unit hastily replied, "We have only 10 mortar rounds remaining, and all cruise missiles have been expended." Dong Zhe felt his heart plummet, a cold sweat trickling down his brow. The A-3 troops advanced rapidly, reaching the foot of the mountain within minutes. In an instant, the sound of heavy machine gun fire erupted from the summit. Hot. The A-3 forces suffered heavy casualties, yet even more surged madly towards the mountain. They were on the verge of a close-quarters confrontation. Dong Zhe aimed his weapon, eliminating 2 charging A-3 soldiers, his brow furrowing deeply. Without heavy firepower, how could they possibly withstand such a multitude of A-3 troops? Were they destined to lay down their lives with 800 soldiers? He glanced at the detonators strapped to his waist, steeling himself. To hell with it. Taking one down is no loss. Taking two is a gain. The Tagla Mountain was already densely populated with three troops, and the camp was on the brink of being breached. But just then, a dragon's roar echoed from afar. Upon hearing this sound, Dong Zai trembled. He had heard from others that the emergence of the mysterious mechanical beast developed by the Dragon Nation was always heralded by a dragon's roar. Reinforcements. Reinforcements were on the way. The expressions of the warriors brightened instantly, their morale soaring. 800 pairs of hopeful eyes gazed towards the direction of the resounding dragon's roar. A dozen or so Z-20 transport helicopters approached the mountaintop with a thunderous clamor. To the soldiers' astonishment, each helicopter bore a mechanical beast beneath it. The mechanical beasts. Indeed, our salvation has arrived. In that fleeting moment, an invigorating energy surged through everyone. Even the bullets aimed at the enemy became denser. The adversaries were overwhelmed by this fierce assault, unable to lift their heads, scrambling for cover. Following closely behind them, Commander Kumar snorted dismissively. Fear not, their ammunition is scarce. This is merely a fleeting resurgence of the Dragon Nation's warriors. Press the attack. We must seize the glory. The first one to breach the camp will be rewarded with a yak. He secretly rejoiced, for capturing the camp first would surely elevate his rank. For this ambition, the loss of countless soldiers mattered not. Upon hearing Kumar's command, innumerable adversaries charged towards the mountaintop, their eyes ablaze with fervor. Yet in the next heartbeat, 5 colossal forms descended from the hovering helicopters with a resounding crash. Boom! Amidst the flying debris, 5 dragon-headed, bull-bodied mechanical beasts descended like divine warriors, crashing outside the camp and reducing over a dozen charging foes to mere pulp. Before the adversaries could react, the 5 mechanical beasts lowered their heads simultaneously. The horns atop their heads glowed with a brilliant red light, transforming into 2 plasma horns, each 5 or 6 meters long. Their massive hooves struck the ground, creating deep craters and resonating like war drums. O Lord Shiva, what manner of creature is this? One adversary stood dumbfounded before the mechanical beast, his weapon slipping helplessly from his grasp. Are we truly to engage in battle against such terrifying entities? The adversaries on the slope, terror etched across their faces, trembled uncontrollably before the 5 towering mechanical beasts. We will die. We are surely doomed. Not only the adversaries, but even Dong Zai and the soldiers stood in stunned silence, momentarily forgetting to continue firing. What are you dawdling for? Keep attacking. The voice of Hua Qizhong, filled with frustration, echoed from one of the mechanical beasts. These 5 mechanical beasts, known as Qionyou, were described by the Military Science Academy of Shunsheng as assault machines perfectly suited for the current scenario. Coordinate with them and strive to annihilate the enemy. Listening to Hua Qizhong's words, Dong Zai's eyes widened in disbelief. Is this even rational? Not only are we expected to synchronize with these mere 5 mechanical beasts, but we are also told to wipe out the enemy? It would be a miracle if we aren't annihilated ourselves. Has General Hua succumbed to senility? You, Dong Zai, prepared to face punishment after the battle. The soldiers also gazed at the 5 Qionyou with awe and astonishment. Heavenly warriors descend. How astonishingly magnificent. The hillside offers scant refuge for evasion, and I can hardly bear to witness the multitude perishing beneath the hooves of the cattle. Behold those formidable horns, should one be struck. Would they not be sent sprawling in disarray? So this is the sensation of having cutting-edge military technology as one's backing? I begin to grasp the essence of the American spirit. Roaring, amidst the astonished gazes of all, 5 captive bulls simultaneously unleashed a thundering roar and charged down the slope. 4 hydraulic hooves pounded the earth like colossal pile drivers, leaving a series of profound craters in their wake. The charge of the captive bulls was astonishingly swift, nearly accelerating to a staggering 600 kilometers per hour in the blink of an eye. Such speed eclipses even the fastest existing supercars, having just scaled the heights. Kuma barely had time to catch his breath when one of the bulls transformed into a fleeting shadow, hurtling directly towards him with ferocious intent. He had no time to react, only feeling a searing pain as his body soared away like a kite severed from its string. Soaring over dense forests, towering mountains, and deep valleys, Kuma struggled to lift his gaze against the howling wind, only to catch sight of the wreckage of an armored vehicle. Amidst the debris, half of Leku's body dangled from the shattered window, his unblinking eyes staring directly at him. By heavens! Kuma gasped with the last vestiges of his strength, just as his body collided violently with the ground. Bang! Splatter! The tremendous impact reduced Kuma to nothing more than a mass of flesh. On the battlefield atop the mountain, every single warrior was struck down as if they had been hit head-on by a tank, unable to utter a single cry. reduced to mere puddles of gore beneath the bulls' hooves. Even those who escaped the direct onslaught of the captive bulls could not evade the lethal sweep of the plasma horns. Wherever the captive bulls passed, hundreds of warriors stood momentarily stunned. They gazed in disbelief at their own chests and abdomens, preparing to touch, only to find a line of blood slowly appearing between them. In the next instant, boom, 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 hundreds of figures were severed in two, slowly collapsing to the ground. In that fleeting moment, the entire path leading to the summit was littered with lifeless bodies. The air was thick with a metallic scent of blood, overwhelming the nostrils of all present. This scene was so brutal, so violent, so sanguinary that even the battle-hardened veterans could not suppress their nausea. Yet, I find it exhilarating. Further afield, the warriors trembled uncontrollably, and at least half of them were so frightened that they wet their trousers. Amidst the acrid stench of urine, they scrambled down the mountain in a frenzied panic. The entire mountainside was awash with the chaotic flight of warriors. However, the subsequent uncomprehending troops behind them firmly blocked their escape. What transpired? The rear ranks bore expressions of confusion, curiously inquiring. Yet, what awaited them was the overwhelming force of the fleeing soldiers surging toward them. Make way, clear the path. The monsters are upon us, run. With so many packed together, did they all wish for demise? Who dares to obstruct the path should not expect mercy. The two factions collided instantaneously, a chaotic throng of bodies pushing and shoving, resulting in a stampede. At least 1,000 individuals found themselves immobilized in the midst of the tumult. At that moment, a sudden dragon's roar echoed from the mountainside. The fleeing soldiers trembled in fear, their cries echoing in panic. Some collapsed, their legs giving way in despair, while others knelt in prayer, seeking the mercy of the great god Shiva. A few, disregarding all else, attempted to force their way through the crowd, even climbing atop the heads of their comrades. Frantically scrambling backward, amidst the terrified gazes of the multitude, 5 blood-soaked cattle thundered down the slope. Their target was the very heart of the crowd. With a resounding crash, the 5 beasts plunged into the fray, cutting through the chaos like a knife through tofu. In the next instant, a torrential rain of blood fell. Witnessing the carnage wrought by the cattle, Dongzhe exhaled deeply, a sigh of relief escaping him. The assault from the opposing forces had been repelled, granting the warriors a moment to breathe. Yet, in the very next second, despair seized his heart. On the mountaintop, across the valley, he spotted the artillery of the white elephants. As the artillery positions were established, 24 field guns lined up in formation, aiming unerringly at their target. It was the artillery brigade of the white elephants. These cattle were only capable of close combat and could not possibly thwart the impending bombardment. With a single volley from the white elephant artillery brigade, the encampment atop the hill would be reduced to rubble. Were we truly beyond salvation? Chapter 60. The Artillery Brigade's Volley. No survivors among the Dragon Kingdom warriors. The 5th Mountain Division of the White Elephants, the Artillery Brigade. Commander Sharma directed the gunners to align the 24 field guns in formation. He cast a disdainful glance at the opposing encampment on the mountaintop. A bunch of fools, only concerned with claiming glory while suffering heavy losses. Who could they blame? The true spectacle of the battlefield always unfolds after the artillery makes its entrance. Let us see what unfolds next. Sharma grasped his tactical binoculars, meticulously surveying the conditions of the enemy's position. Target: enemy personnel exposed. Coordinates KJ 925731. Elevation approximately 800 meters. Distance 12 kilometers. The entire brigade was to employ the number 5 high-explosive ammunition, ensuring the mountaintop was leveled. Commence loading. Upon hearing Sharma's orders, the adjutant gasped in astonishment. Number 5 high-explosive ammunition? Wasn't that the newly developed type provided in secrecy by the Eagles, capable of reducing a 100-meter radius to rubble with a single shot? Goodness. It seemed Sharma was truly enraged. Otherwise, why would he issue such a ruthless command? With 24 guns firing, not only would the mountaintop encampment be obliterated, but even the hill itself would be halved. Just 800 men, was it really necessary? What were we waiting for? Execute the orders. Under Sharma's icy gaze, the adjutant hurriedly relayed the command. Soon, the 24 field guns were fully loaded. Gun 1 ready. Gun 2 ready. Sharma raised the command flag and commanded loudly. Concentrated fire. Prepare. The artillerymen's fingers rested on the triggers, waiting for Sharma's signal to reduce the opposing mountaintop to mere dust. At the mountaintop camp, Dongzhe lowered his tactical binoculars, his face etched with despair. He sprang to his feet and shouted with all his strength to the soldiers, "Artillery barrage incoming. Take cover." The soldiers hurriedly sought out hiding spots, yet despair lingered on each of their faces. They were about to face a full artillery brigade's concentrated fire. under such overwhelming bombardment. None believed they would survive. One soldier tore a necklace from his chest and opened the locket, revealing a photograph of his beautiful fiancée, preparing to marry him back in Guam province. Ajun, don't wait for me. Find a good man to marry. I'm sorry, I love you. Until we meet again in the next life. The soldier pressed the photo to his face, tears streaming down his cheeks uncontrollably. Meanwhile, two other soldiers leaned against one another, sharing some sticky rice dumplings from their pockets. Mother, your unfilial son will repay this affection in the next life. Brother, if we fall, will mother be heartbroken? No, we won't let anything happen to us. The brothers began to weep, the dumplings tasting of their mother's deep love, impossible to swallow. But in the next moment, the younger brother collapsed softly to the ground. The elder brother silently stowed his rifle and pressed it against his sibling, trying to shield him from view. Little brother, this is all I can do for you. You must live on for me. Dong Zai slowly stood upright, his posture rigid. He raised his grim face, his gaze like an anchor, firmly fixed upon Yanjing. In the next instant, military boots pounded the ground, raising a cloud of dust. His right arm shot forth like lightning, pressing against his brow. In the next life, Dong Zai's voice, though not loud, resonated with every soldier's ear, each word a chisel carving into their resolve. Stand firm. Citizens of the Dragon Kingdom. The command was sharp and brief, like the crack of a gunshot. In the face of certain death, concealment was futile. As if pulled by an invisible string, all soldiers on the battleground stood upright simultaneously, resolute. Their movements were unprecedentedly unified, their determined gazes directed toward the horizon. 800 right arms raised, like an imposing forest, in the expanse of heaven and earth. Only the military salute pointing toward the capital conveyed the most sincere oath. This life is pledged to the nation. The next life shall return. But just as the soldiers prepared to meet their fate with unwavering resolve, a dragon's roar echoed from the helicopter above. The voice of Hua Qizhong resonated from one of the mechanical beasts. Don't pass the tissues. I've got dust in my eyes. Don't rush to die. We haven't unleashed our trump card yet. A mere artillery brigade? Watch me crush it with sheer strength. Unleash the beast. Amidst the astonished gazes of the soldiers, 5 figures descended from the helicopter. Yet, in the blink of an eye, their expressions morphed into sheer disbelief. 2 wings emerged from behind the 5 silhouettes, gently flapping as they effortlessly hovered above the soldiers. It was then that the soldiers discerned the true nature of these mechanical beasts, dragons with phoenix-like bodies, each suspended beneath a slender cannon. What sorcery had Jiang Yi consumed to boost his production speed to such extraordinary levels? In a mere span of 10 days, he had managed to create 2 models of mechanical beasts. I must mention, this particular construct is named Chao Feng, a formidable sniper mechanical beast. Its abdomen houses a plasma sniper cannon with an astonishing range of 50 kilometers. At the revelation, the soldiers collectively gasped in astonishment. A range of 50 kilometers? Is this truly a sniper cannon? It resembles more of a short-range missile launcher. Consider that the monstrous sniper cannon developed by the Americans boasts a mere range of 5 kilometers. The range of Chao Feng's sniper cannon is a staggering 10-fold that of the beast's. And I must emphasize, I have yet to finish. Hua Qizhong, akin to a child with a newfound toy, eagerly elaborated. Not only does it possess an extensive range, but the power of Chao Feng's plasma sniper cannon is equally astounding. The Americans' monstrosities claim to obliterate infantry fighting vehicles with ease. I once believed that was the pinnacle of strength. Yet, in comparison to Chao Feng's sniper cannon, those beasts pale in insignificance. One shot from Chao Feng can effortlessly devastate the armor of a main battle tank. Against the feeble armor of the white elephant's Aqiong, one shot could potentially penetrate 2 tanks. It also possesses aerial combat capabilities, allowing it to nimbly evade incoming fire while retaliating on the move. With its assistance, not merely 1 artillery brigade, but even 2 would become mere targets. As Hua Qizhong expounded, the soldiers' eyes sparkled with growing enthusiasm. Is this the profound heritage of the Dragon Kingdom? What formidable scientific prowess this demonstrates. One cannot help but wonder about Jiang Yi, the genius capable of engineering such superlative mechanical beasts. Is he a towering figure, possessing 3 heads and 6 arms? Or perhaps a figure akin to a deity, capable of transforming in myriad ways? While the soldiers indulged in their reveries, atop the opposing hill, Shalima felt a profound sense of indignation. Had these individuals from the Dragon Kingdom lost their minds? Fully aware that they were soon to face our artillery fire, they stood there nonchalantly, devoid of any semblance of concealment. Did they regard our artillery brigade as mere air? Damn it, do they not realize that in modern warfare, firepower reigns supreme? Since the advent of artillery, no one has dared to disregard our might. Shalima clenched his teeth, the sound echoing like thunder, as he forcefully lowered the command flag. If they dare to treat us as mere air, I shall reduce you all to vapor. Concentrated fire. Bombard them relentlessly. Chapter 61. Chow Foam Strikes. Annihilating the artillery brigade in one blow. Boom, 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 boom. A battalion of 24 field artillery pieces unleashed a barrage. Their 105mm high-explosive shells hurtling forth with the ferocity of a thunderstorm. Dong Zai's pupils constricted in realization, regret spilling from his lips. It's over, in my distraction. I neglected the enemy's artillery. The soldiers' spirits plummeted, even though they understood that the Chow Foam could engage the enemy artillery from a distance. The incoming shells seemed beyond interception. With the formidable velocity of the field guns, the shells were now traveling at an astonishing 600 meters per second. To accurately target such a diminutive projectile at that speed was nothing short of fanciful. Even the mightiest forces of Blue Star would find it impossible to intercept artillery shells. Ah, dear ones, in the next life. Alas, my child shall not sacrifice for the nation. Just as despair enveloped the warriors once more, the wings of the Chow Foam suddenly fluttered with vigor. In the next moment, 5 Chow Foam surged forth like 5 arrows, racing towards the incoming shells. Sharma, witnessing the spectacle, burst into laughter, a sardonic grin upon his face as he pointed at the Chow Foam rushing toward the shells. Foolish dragon country folk, do you truly believe these mechanical beasts can shield you from artillery? Are you courting death? The artillerymen behind him joined in raucous laughter. After years of military service, indeed, throughout the annals of warfare, they had never encountered anything capable of withstanding the onslaught of high-explosive shells. The fate of these mechanical creatures could only lead to obliteration. They would protect nothing. Surely, all Dragon Country soldiers would perish here. Yet, in the blink of an eye, Sharma's mirth faltered. In midair, one Chow Foam flapped its wings, and the plasma sniper cannon nestled in its belly ignited with a radiant glow. Boom! With a resounding explosion. A pale blue beam precisely struck a high-speed shell mid-flight. The shell erupted into a massive fireball in the air. The Chow Foam did not relent. The sniper cannon appeared to require no aiming, firing rapidly at the shells with unerring precision. As the flashes of light danced, 5 or 6 shells were annihilated in fiery bursts. The remaining Chow Foam were equally industrious, as if they had coordinated their efforts, each targeting several shells. Amidst the flickering pale blue light, the skies above the valley transformed into a grand spectacle akin to a fireworks display. 24 bursts of flame illuminated a swath of the sky, enveloping the 5 Chow Foam within their brilliance. They could actually strike the fired shells with such accuracy. It was terrifying. Dragon Country was truly formidable. Nevertheless, Sharma steadied his trembling legs, hastily seizing the tactical binoculars from the messenger's hands, peering toward the conflagration. They must be dead. Such immense force. Those wretched mechanical beasts had to have perished. They were indeed powerful, but dreadfully foolish, with so many shells exploding. It was little different than facing a concentrated volley head-on. Upon reaching this point, Sharma finally exhaled in relief, hastily wiping the cold sweat from his brow. A sinister smile creeping across his lips. Those damned Dragon Kingdom denizens dared to intimidate me with such contrivances. Now, without the assistance of these mechanical beasts, let us see what they shall use to defend themselves. Everyone, concentrate your fire. He raised his command flag and brought it down with fervor. Yet, curiously, the artillerymen behind him remained utterly unresponsive. A bunch of imbeciles. Fire now. Sharma turned back in anger, only to find the gunners staring in sheer terror at the center of the valley. He swiftly pivoted, and what he beheld would be etched in his memory forever. Amidst the explosive blaze, 5 figures gradually emerged, wings gracefully fluttering. Then, 5 pale blue beams flashed by. Boom, 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 boom. In the next instant, a formidable shockwave surged from behind, nearly toppling him from the mountaintop. What on earth is happening? Sharma turned in stunned disbelief, only to see flames engulfing the sky. 5 field guns had been reduced to mere heaps of scrap metal, fragments scattering everywhere. The surrounding artillerymen suffered catastrophic casualties. Over 100 had perished in the blast. Countless others lay on the ground, impaled by shrapnel, wailing in agony. In one fell swoop, the entire artillery brigade had been decimated. 3/10 of their strength obliterated. Monsters. They're all monsters. A flicker of fear crossed Sharma's face, yet he steeled himself and commanded, "Do not panic, continue firing. I refuse to believe they can maintain an impeccable defense without a single shell breaching their lines. As long as one shell lands in the Dragon Kingdom camp, our operational objective will be achieved. Concentrate your fire." The gunners, suppressing their terror, gritted their teeth, and fed shells into the cannons. Just as they prepared for the next volley, pale blue light flashed once more. Boom! 5 field guns were rendered inoperative yet again. What terrified Sharma even more was that one beam struck directly at the ammunition depot at the center of the artillery position. In the next moment, an immense mushroom cloud erupted from the mountaintop. A violent shockwave instantly swept across the entire summit, toppling trees within a kilometer radius. No, this cannot be. I refuse to accept this. As the flames surged toward him, Sharma's figure vanished amidst the inferno. The entire artillery brigade was consumed in this cataclysmic explosion, leaving not a trace behind. Below, in the valley, the unfortunate souls who had narrowly escaped the clutches of the captive bulls had only just clawed their way halfway up the mountainside when the shockwave hurled them back once more. Countless bodies slammed into the soft grass of the valley floor. In the next heartbeat, they were met with the sound of heavy footfalls approaching from behind. Do not come closer, do not approach. Mother, I want to go home. Amidst the desperate cries of the hapless souls, several captive bulls lowered their heads and charged forth with ferocity. Headquarters of the 5th Mountain Division. Shazan, in a fit of rage, overturned the sand table before him. Are you telling me that our advanced troops, the 2 500 men of the 1st Mountain Brigade, the 1 800 Artillery Brigade, and the 600 Armored Assault Battalion, were completely annihilated by a mere 800 soldiers from the Dragon Nation? That amounts to a staggering 6,000 personnel. Even with sheer numbers, we could have filled the mountaintop. Are you suggesting that Dragon Nation warriors are super soldiers capable of taking on 10 foes at once? What nonsense is this? The staff exchanged glances, fearful of provoking Shazan's ire, remaining silent. Yet, the grim reality was that only a few hundred of the initial 6,000 had returned. Nearly the entire force wiped out. One staff member stammered, I've heard that Dragon Nation employed 2 previously unseen mechanical beasts. We may have fallen to their advanced technology. Shazan seized the collar of the staff member and bellowed, what utter nonsense. Does Dragon Nation possess advanced technology while we, the White Elephants, do not? Do you have any idea how many White Elephant personnel work in the high-tech companies of Eagle Frog Valley? Their presence has significantly elevated our technological prowess. We are by no means inferior to Dragon Nation. Lakku, Kuma, and Sharma. Those fools couldn't even contend with a few mechanical beasts. They deserve their fate. With a cold, piercing gaze directed at his subordinates, Shazan commanded, immediately contact the homeland and secretly dispatch the 3rd Flying Squadron. 18 glorious bombers will easily deal with those paltry 800 from Dragon Nation. Chapter 62, Brain Domain Development 30. You will master the art of Chai-Iz at the Military Science Institute in Shun City. The experimental base was quiet, with staff members already in slumber by 3 in the morning. Only Jiang Yi tirelessly continued his assembly work. Suddenly, the system chime ding, successfully shocked all members of the 5th Mountain Division, gaining 30,000 shock points. Successfully shocked Dragon Nation soldiers, gaining 100 shock points. At the sound of the notification, Jiang Yi, initially weary, felt a surge of revitalization. It appeared that Xiongyo and Chao Feng had indeed made a slight impact on the White Elephants. Excellent. This meant he could now redeem the 2nd vial of the Brain Domain Development Serum. Without hesitation, Jiang Yi focused his thoughts, and a vial of pale blue liquid materialized in his hand. As the needle pierced his skin, he felt a dizzying sensation. He vividly envisioned the pale blue liquid surging through his veins, swiftly absorbed by his body. Brain Domain Development Level 30. Suddenly, a throbbing sensation struck the back of Jiang Yi's head. His gaze snapped towards a corner of the base, eyes narrowing slightly. Thanks to his enhanced vision, he clearly perceived a robust man in a black suit crouched among the stacked wooden crates. What struck him as odd was that this man was a stranger to the base, and moreover, he possessed distinctly Western features. A subtle smile played on Jiang Yi's lips as he called out towards the wooden crate. Come out. I see you. The man concealed behind the crate was momentarily taken aback, his eyes widening in disbelief. As the most elite agent of the Eagle Nation's intelligence agency, known by the codename 007, Bond had executed numerous missions in the Dragon Kingdom without a single failure. Just days prior, he had hidden within the crate, infiltrating the base through the materials transported by Li Yunfei. To avoid detection, he had even refrained from using the restroom. Bond was utterly convinced that no one in the entire base could discover him. But what was happening now? He lifted his gaze to the lid of the crate, which was sealed tight without the slightest crack. Could it be that Jiang Yi was merely paranoid, attempting to deceive him? Cursed be the cunning people of the Dragon Kingdom. Or perhaps it was true that the individual appointed by Lord Apis was indeed extraordinary. Just then, Jiang Yi's voice rang out again. Stop looking, the crate is intact. At that moment, Bond was entirely certain that Jiang Yi had somehow discerned his presence. He leaped forward, smashing through the crate and emerging from within. Immediately, he brandished his specially crafted firearm, aiming it squarely at Jiang Yi. Jiang Yi, I can see that you are quite clever, but that is where your advantage ends. Allow me to introduce myself. I am James Bond, agent of the Eagle Nation's intelligence agency, codename 007. My mission is to make contact with you. Contact me? Jiang Yi paused slightly. I have no allegiance with the Eagle Nation. What could we possibly discuss? Bond chuckled lightly, elegantly brushing off the dust from his attire. Lord Apis holds your talents in high regard and wishes to invite you to develop your skills within the Eagle Nation. As the most powerful country on Blue Star, I doubt anyone would refuse the scientific resources of the Eagle Nation, especially a genius like yourself. With a graceful motion, Bond retrieved a piece of paper from his pocket and began to read aloud. Lord Apis has stated that should you agree to serve the Eagle Nation, he can personally guarantee you a reward of 1 billion Eagle coins, ensuring that you will encounter no limitations whatsoever. Any resources you desire, any location you wish to access, even nuclear facilities, will be provided for you without hesitation. Furthermore, he promises that if you dedicate yourself to military research for the Eagle Nation for 3 years, he will facilitate your entry to Sister Island, where you may explore the mysteries of the human body together. Upon hearing this, even Bond could not suppress a sharp intake of breath. Such generous terms were unprecedented. Even after years of his own covert operations in the Dragon Kingdom, it wasn't merely the staggering sum of 1 billion Eagle coins that astonished him. It was the implications of the subsequent promises. The notion that Jiang Yi could freely access nuclear facilities was akin to fully opening the vault to him. Not to mention the allure of Sister Island, a place coveted by countless wealthy merchants and high-ranking officials across all of Blue Star. Even as a top-tier agent, he had only heard whispers of it, lacking the privilege to enter. It was said to harbor secrets that could extend life itself. For those who truly wield power and influence, life is more precious than anything else. After all, wealth can be regained, authority can be reclaimed, but life, once lost, is irretrievable. The Island of Sisters can bestow upon them a new beginning. What a bountiful reward. I find myself somewhat tempted. A smug smile crept across Bond's lips. Such an enticing reward is surely irresistible. Yet in the next moment, the smile on his face gradually faded. Regrettably, Jiang Yi shrugged and remarked, Alas, I was born and raised in the Dragon Country, and I wish to die there as well. No matter how appealing the eagle's sauce may be, it cannot rival the homeland that nurtured me. This opportunity is better left for AP to seize. Bond's gaze turned cold as he fixed his eyes on Jiang Yi, a finger poised on the trigger. With a mere flick, he could send Jiang Yi to his demise. I forgot to mention, AP's final command was, if you refuse to accompany me, eliminate without hesitation. So do not blame me for my lack of courtesy. Bond shook his head regretfully, his finger abruptly squeezing the trigger. Yet, Jiang Yi's movements proved swifter. He dropped low, evading the incoming bullet under Bond's astonished gaze. When he rose again, he stood face to face with Bond. A frown creased Bond's brow as he lifted his knee, delivering a vicious kick toward Jiang Yi's groin. Jiang Yi smiled slightly, his form agile, akin to a martial arts master honed by years of practice. He grasped Bond's calf with one hand and seized the gun barrel with the other, employing an intricate and unfathomable finesse to pull and twist. In the next instant, he effortlessly disarmed Bond, driving the barrel forcefully into Bond's calf. What have you done? Bond screamed, clutching his leg in agony, staggering backward, his eyes fixed on Jiang Yi, brimming with terror. What had transpired? He was the foremost agent of Eagle Sauce, seasoned in combat with a repertoire of ruthless techniques. Not even elite special forces could withstand a single move against him. Yet now, his pride and confidence were thoroughly crushed by this seemingly fragile youth from the Dragon Country. Martial arts. The mastery of the Dragon Country. Impossible. There is no evidence to suggest you possess such skills. Have you been concealing your prowess all these years? Jiang Yi remained silent, quietly observing his hands. A glimmer of astonishment flickered in his eyes. Upon achieving a 30 development of his brain's capacity, he had acquired a new ability, absolute control over his body. In this state, his speed, strength, and reflexes had drastically enhanced. Against ordinary individuals, he could easily engage 100 at once. It was as if he had activated a cheat. A mere agent was hardly a match for him. Yet, just as he reveled in his joy, a compact, sci-fi-styled handgun emerged from Bond's cuff. Chapter 63. The Assault of the Fighter Squadron, the Despairing Mountain Camp. Bond growled, lunging forward like a ravenous wolf. Bang! The mini-grenade attached to the gun emitted a sharp shriek as it soared through the air, hurtling towards Jiang Yi. Bond smiled coldly. This firearm was a special weapon crafted specifically for him by the intelligence agency. Despite its diminutive appearance, it could unexpectedly launch a mini grenade. While its range was limited, the explosive power it wielded was formidable. The blast radius could extend to approximately 1 meter. No one on Blue Star could survive an explosion of such magnitude. This was his trump card. Jiang Yi smiled slightly, his body twisting ever so slightly, managing to glide past the mini grenade. His fingers shot out, maintaining a momentary parallel velocity with the grenade. With a gentle pinch of his 2 fingers, the mini grenade obediently followed the rotation of his body, now aimed at the terrified Bond. Get away! With a soft shout from Jiang Yi, the mini grenade rushed back towards Bond at the same speed. Witnessing this surreal scene, Bond's legs turned to jelly, nearly collapsing to the ground. Grabbing a grenade barehanded and sending it back? Was this even something a human could accomplish? Monster? What kind of monster are you? Boom! In a moment of disbelief, the mini grenade exploded violently. Bond's body was violently slammed against the wall behind him, lifeless and beyond recovery. Indeed, Bond's assessment was entirely accurate. No one on Blue Star could survive such an explosion, including himself. Jiang Yi nonchalantly brushed off the dust from his hands, as if he had merely accomplished a trivial task. He stretched his back vigorously and returned to assembling the new mechanical beasts. With his newfound ability to exert absolute control over his body, his work speed increased severalfold. Assembling, welding, drilling, programming. Jiang Yi became a blur, rapidly producing component after component. Soon, 3 brand-new mechanical beasts emerged at the center of the base. At that moment, the satellite phone clipped to Jiang Yi's waist suddenly rang. Upon answering, he heard the anxious voice of Commander Hua Qizhong from the Western Theater. Xiao Jiang, I need your urgent assistance. I've received word that the White Elephant's 3rd Flight Squadron is heading towards Jiangnan. Analyzing their trajectory, their target is the Tagla Mountain Top Camp. Jiang Yi exclaimed in astonishment. Has the White Elephant lost its mind? They dispatched an entire squadron of fighter jets to deal with a mere 800 of us from the Dragon Nation. He paused, then suddenly chuckled. Commander Hua, send over a Y-20 transport plane. I have just crafted some remarkable items. With them, the camp will be secure. On the other end of the line, Hua Qizhong was momentarily taken aback, his eyes widening in astonishment. Could it be? No, it was inconceivable. Hadn't Jiang Yi just recently developed 2 mechanical beasts only a few days ago? To think that he had managed to create several more in such a short span of time. Was Jiang Yi truly so gifted that engineering mechanical beasts was as effortless as assembling building blocks? My goodness, was he even human? With this thought, Hua Qizhong's admiration for Jiang Yi deepened. He hastily summoned the communications officer, urging them to dispatch a Y-20 cargo aircraft at the quickest possible speed, aiming to deliver the mechanical beasts to Jiangnan within 2 hours. He then connected with Captain Dong Zhe. Captain Dong, you must hold out until reinforcements arrive. The military academy of Shun City has urgently dispatched several mechanical beasts en route to Jiangnan. We must hold the line. At the mountaintop camp, Dong Zhe placed the phone down with a grim expression, letting out a deep sigh. Are we truly relying on these infantrymen, devoid of any anti-aircraft firepower? How could we possibly withstand an aerial assault from a squadron? At present, their only hope lay in. Dong Zhe suddenly had a thought, turning to gaze at the Chow phone, which was unfurling its wings and charging up on the ground. If it could intercept incoming artillery shells, surely it stood a chance against the illustrious 3rd-generation aircraft, the Glorious Fighter. After all, its maximum speed of 2 Mach was not particularly swift. Dong Zhe picked up a cloth, a smile plastered across his face as he approached the Chow phone. Chow, esteemed wind, he said, gently dusting off its surface. I've treated you well, haven't I? Soon, adversaries will come to slay us. Can you bear to watch us perish? The Chow phone turned its head, gazing blankly at Dong Zhe. Despite its considerable intelligence, it lacked human-like reasoning and could not comprehend the human's intentions. Noting the creature's indifference, Dong Zhe rubbed his hands together and flatteringly continued, Oh, esteemed wind, the enemy's aircraft are on the verge of arrival. Your might is unparalleled. Please save us. Whether it understood Dong Zhe's plea or not, before he could finish, the Chow Fang's eyes suddenly glimmered with a red light, rising to its feet and gazing toward the horizon. As its full-spectrum scanner activated, movements several kilometers away appeared on its processor. In the next moment, a swarm of small black dots materialized in the distant sky. Dong Zhe seized his tactical binoculars, peering anxiously into the distance, only to gasp in shock. Those numerous black dots were, in fact, a fleet of rapidly approaching aircraft, the glorious fighters of the White Elephant. Dong Zhe lowered the binoculars and urgently shouted, Enemy airstrike. Take cover immediately. 800 soldiers swiftly sought refuge, their faces etched with gravity as they looked skyward. Could the Chow Feng truly withstand an aerial assault? A young soldier gazed at the poised Chow Feng, his eyes gleaming with hope. The veteran beside him shook his head with resignation, sighing, "You fool. No matter how formidable the Chow Feng is, it is still just a mechanical beast. It is already quite remarkable that it can withstand artillery fire. Yet aircraft are an entirely different matter, incomparable to field guns. Take the Mirage fighter as an example. Even as a third-generation aircraft, it boasts an impressive speed of 2 Mach, soaring nearly 700 meters per second, with such velocity and operating at altitudes of several thousand meters. How can we possibly contend with them? This is simply beyond the capabilities of infantry." Upon hearing this, all the soldiers fell into silence. The most agonizing reality in the world is not death itself, but the cruel twist of fate that grants you a glimmer of hope for survival only to confront death once more. Despair flickered in the eyes of every soldier. Had they fought so hard to survive only to succumb to these airstrikes? Soon, more than a dozen aircraft arranged themselves into tactical formations, arriving above the mountaintop encampment. Among them, Captain Kotuk of the 3rd Flight Squadron coldly surveyed the camp below, a bloodthirsty smile curling at the corners of his mouth. Such a diminutive encampment necessitating the deployment of 18 Mirage fighters from our squadron? Is this not a gross misuse of resources? One must admit, the minds of those in command seem somewhat unhinged. Over the radio, the other pilots erupted in boisterous laughter. It is safe to say that the Army is merely a group of inept individuals. Without us, their more than 10,000 personnel could not even capture a small encampment. How could we not consider fighter pilots to be of noble status, while the Army is hardly worthy of shining our shoes? Kotuk responded with a cold smile. Orders have been given. Our duty is to execute them. Let these ignorant Dragon Kingdom soldiers witness the might of the Mirage fighters. Chapter 64. The truth of the defenselessness and the downed aircraft, just as Kotuk was about to issue commands. The voice of Pilot Ravi from Aircraft 18 crackled through the radio. "Captain, for such a minuscule camp, I alone am sufficient. One precision bomb will obliterate the entire site. You all provide cover while I take care of this." Before anyone could react, he reversed his aircraft and plunged directly toward the camp. Dong Zhe clenched his teeth, his frustration mounting as he stood frozen in place, his eyes nearly bursting with rage. Low-altitude combat by diving aircraft is something that only outdated models from the Second Blue Star War, 80 years prior, would dare to attempt. Modern aircraft engage in beyond visual range attacks. There is no need for close combat. Yet this clunky tin can, the White Elephant, boldly descended without a hint of evasive maneuvers. Was this not a blatant mockery of their inability to counteract aircraft, an overt humiliation? The diving Mirage unleashed bursts of fire from its cannons, unleashing a deadly hail of bullets upon the encampment. The soldiers hurriedly concealed themselves beneath the defensive fortifications, striving to avoid being struck by the gunfire. Dong Zhe's lungs felt as if they would explode with rage. Was this never-ending torment? In the realm of modern warfare, particularly in beyond visual range combat, the aircraft's cannon has become virtually superfluous, rarely utilized in standard engagements. Only those of a half-hearted caliber, like the White Elephant, would deign to equip their aircraft with such a redundant feature. The J-20 of the Dragon Nation has long since discarded such feudal designs. Yet now, these imbeciles audaciously employ these outdated contraptions to humiliate them. How could he possibly contain his rage? Damn it all. Domze's fists clenched, cracking ominously, his eyes ablaze with furious indignation, wishing he could fire upon the approaching aircraft. Yet, he understood that such actions would be futile, an exercise in vanity, as he could never hope to strike a swiftly advancing target. The outline of the mountaintop camp had clearly come into view through the porthole. Robbie's lips curled into a cruel smirk. He gestured, and the belly bay doors of the glorious fighter swung wide open, revealing a menacingly large bomb protruding ominously. Ridiculous dragon people. Perhaps in your next life, you shall be born into better circumstances. This is the consequence of your unwarranted arrogance. Just as his finger was about to press the launch button, a ghostly blue beam unexpectedly grazed the edge of the cockpit canopy. It was so close that Ravi could even feel the fleeting heat. In the next instant, a piercing alarm shattered the silence. Warning, warning. Severe damage. Weapon systems compromised. Eject. Please eject immediately. Hearing the system's alarm, Ravi's pupils contracted to pinpricks, his hair standing on end. What the hell is happening? He quickly glanced at the control panel, where the display of the aircraft status showed the bomb bay flashing with a blinding red light. Impossible. Didn't the intel indicate that the Dragon Nation's camp had no air defense capabilities? Robbie's voice rose sharply, nearly breaking. What could have struck me? Could have been their primitive fire sticks? What a joke. This is nothing short of an affront to technology and common sense. It must be a coincidence. I refuse to believe it. A frenzied light flickered in Ravi's eyes, bloodshot and wild. His fingers raced across the control panel, furiously tapping the unlock commands. Disengage the side, missile safety. Fire authorization confirmed. He focused on the targeting screen, where dragon warriors appeared as mere ants and coldly uttered a chilling phrase through clenched teeth. Though lacking the explosive power of the bomb, it excelled in precision. Damn dragon people, prepare to meet your demise. His finger tightened on the trigger, ready to press down with force, when a pale blue light suddenly tore through the air, striking the root of the left wing like a venomous serpent. Boom! Ravi's pupils shrank to the size of pinheads, and in his astonished gaze, the left wing erupted in a thunderous explosion. In the next moment, the aircraft's nose tilted sharply, spiraling towards the ground. Ravi's eyes widened in terror, and he hastily pressed the ejection button. Bang! The cabin hatch suddenly sprang open, and Ravi's figure was ejected alongside his seat. As the parachute deployed, he exhaled a sigh of relief, still shaken. What was that? What struck me? He glanced down and discovered, hundreds of meters below, several winged mechanical beasts coldly fixated upon him. What on earth is this monstrous entity? In the midst of Ravi's incredulous cries, a pale blue light loomed larger in his vision. Boom! The sky and ground erupted simultaneously in twin flames, reducing Ravi and his radiant fighter jet to mere ashes. Meanwhile, the previously tranquil formation of the 3rd Flight Squadron was thrown into disarray. Captain Kotuk nearly spewed blood in exasperation. That fool Ravi, disregarding orders and acting on his own. If only he had remained calm and bombed from a high altitude. How could he have been hit? Now, he was effortlessly destroyed by the Dragon Kingdom's mechanical beasts. If this news reached the White Elephant Nation, my captaincy would surely be at stake. Kotuk snorted disdainfully and commanded with composure. All units, take note, urgently switch to a dispersed formation. No one is permitted to descend below 3,000 meters without my command. Prepare for high-altitude bombing. At Kotuk's command, the remaining 17 Radiant fighter jets simultaneously opened their bomb bays. Massive bombs emerged, poised to transform the camp into a blazing inferno at Kotuk's signal. Within the camp, Dong Zai and his soldiers erupted in cheers. We actually shot down a fighter jet. Incredible, although the pilot seemed somewhat lacking in judgment. Hitting a fast-moving aircraft is nothing short of miraculous. Unbelievable, absolutely astonishing. If this news spreads, the whole world will be astounded. The soldiers buzzed with excitement, but Dong Zai's expression remained grave. It appeared the enemy aircraft had learned their lesson, now soaring at several thousand meters, making a repeat of this incident improbable. The situation remained dire. He picked up his tactical binoculars and suddenly gasped. Just as he spoke, the 17 Radiant fighter jets simultaneously pressed the bombing buttons. He clearly saw 17 bombs plummeting toward the camp. Bombs incoming. Take cover. It's too late. Dong Zai's gaze was filled with profound regret. He cursed himself for not seizing the opportunity to disperse the soldiers. He loathed his own complacency, which had led everyone into an inescapable predicament. I am so sorry. I will repay you in the next life. Dong Zai closed his eyes, tears streaming down his cheeks. But in that very moment, he heard the soldiers' startled cries. Look, what is the Chow Feng about to do? Chapter 65. Moths to the Flame, the heroic sacrifice of the Howling Winds. Amid the astonished gazes of the soldiers, 5 Howling Wind plasma sniper cannons ignited with a brilliant blue glow. In the blink of an eye, 5 beams of plasma intersected in midair, striking 5 aerial bombs with unerring precision. Boom! The 5 bombs erupted in a colossal explosion, transforming the sky into a spectacle of immense fireballs. Well done. Seeing the effectiveness of the Howling Wind's assault, Dong Zai leaped with exhilaration. Splendid. Splendid. We are saved. I almost forgot that the Howling Winds could intercept incoming shells. Day after day, living and dying, I had nearly grown numb. The soldiers emerged from their shelters, peering curiously into the sky. Some even began to place bets. How long do you think it will take the Howling Winds to destroy the bombs? I wager 3 seconds. 3 seconds? You underestimate the Howling Winds. 1 second is sufficient. In the sky, the blue light flickered as, in an instant, 17 aerial bombs were detonated one after another. Kotuk gritted his teeth, bellowing in frustration. Cheating. The Dragon Nation is cheating. He could hardly fathom that a seemingly straightforward bombing mission would unveil such an overwhelming force as the Howling Winds. Capable of targeting even the swiftly flying glorious aircraft, they could also precisely annihilate aerial bombs. Is this truly a product of Blue Star? No, I refuse to believe it. How could mere mechanical beasts employed by the army possibly withstand the onslaught of an entire flight squadron? They can intercept aerial bombs, can they? I shall see if they can withstand the assault of supersonic missiles. He snatched up the intercom, his voice hoarse from shouting. Unlock the missile locks. Target the 5 mechanical beasts and fire at will. Deplete all Astra surface-to-air missiles. I refuse to believe they can intercept them all. At his command, 17 glorious aircraft simultaneously launched 2 surface-to-air missiles each, hurtling toward the 5 howling winds. As he beheld the 34 missiles racing towards them, Dong Zai's pupils constricted. The sheer quantity was overwhelming. The speed of Astra missiles ranged between Mach 2 and 3. At this proximity, they would strike the howling winds in a mere 4 to 5 seconds. Not to mention, these missiles were launched simultaneously, while the howling wind sniper cannons could only target one at a time. Even if they managed to destroy 5 to 10, the remaining 20 missiles would swiftly engulf the howling winds. The situation at the mountaintop camp seemed to plunge once more into a deadlock, with no avenue for retreat. Don't mind us, quickly take cover. Dong Zai shouted desperately at the sky, his voice hoarse and ragged. His heart ached. These silent steel giants had saved them time and again, each cold armor etched with the gratitude of survival. He could not bear to watch as they sacrificed their precious forms to fill a pit destined for oblivion. They must survive, they must live. At this moment, a singular thought occupied his mind: to preserve the integrity of these mechanical beasts for a more significant battlefield for broader landscapes. The lives of 800 souls were worth not a fraction of what they represented. The warriors surged from their cover, braving the howling winds and the looming specter of death, their voices rising in fervent cries. Come down. You cannot withstand this. Go, go. We implore you. This land is ours to defend. If we can save these mechanical beasts for the Dragon Kingdom, then our sacrifice will not be in vain. With a boisterous laugh, they soared on the winds, vowing to return as citizens of the Dragon Kingdom in another life. The 5 figures of the wind howlers paused momentarily, their eyes glinting with a fierce light as they cast a penetrating gaze over the throng of fervent souls atop the mountain. Then, raising their heads, they met the oncoming missile barrage with unwavering resolve, emitting a deep, resonant growl that served both as a farewell and a solemn promise. With a powerful beat of their wings, the 5 figures transformed into fleeting shadows, resolutely charging toward the tempest of missiles. Observing the wind howlers, akin to moths drawn to a flame, the mountaintop camp fell into a profound silence. All cries, wails, and expressions of despair were stifled by an unseen hand. Dong Zai felt as though a mountain of stone pressed against his chest, an inexplicable suffocation overwhelming him like a rising tide. He violently tore open the button of his collar, raising his weapon futilely toward the heavens, his finger frantically squeezing the trigger. Bang, 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 bang. Tears welled in the warriors' eyes as they watched the wind howlers fade into the distance. Suddenly, one soldier raised his hand in a perfect military salute. As if summoned by a silent call, the remaining soldiers followed suit. They rendered the highest honor possible to the 5 iron figures who had willingly embraced death in their defense. In the next moment, the wind howlers collided fiercely with the missile swarm. The sky ignited in a brilliant conflagration, painting half the heavens red and blinding the eyes of all warriors with its brilliance. Amidst the smoke of the tremendous explosion, 5 dark remnants traced arcs through the air, plummeting rapidly toward the ground. At that moment, Shazan, the commander of the 5th Division of the White Elephant, who had been observing from the opposite mountaintop, felt a spark of excitement. Excellent. Truly, the self-developed glorious fighters of the White Elephant have effortlessly triumphed over the Dragon Kingdom's mechanical beasts. However, as he watched the falling remnants of the wind howlers, his eyes gleamed with a calculating glint. The strength of these mechanical beasts hinted at advanced technology that surely eluded their grasp. He licked his lips slightly, his gaze brimming with avarice. Should we acquire such cutting-edge technology, our position in the disputes with the Dragon Kingdom would be significantly fortified. In that scenario, the Dragon Kingdom would no longer stand a chance against the Great White Elephant. Charge the entire army. Move out. Ensure we retrieve the remains of these mechanical beasts. Yes, the staff responded promptly. Soon, dozens of armored vehicles surged forth, racing down from the mountaintop. Every vehicle bore a tow hook at its rear, allowing them to effortlessly reclaim the remnants of the fallen Chao Feng by merely approaching its fragmented form. Shazan, accompanied by the remaining 8,000 soldiers of the 5th Division, closely trailed behind the armored vehicles. The entire 5th Division was mobilized. With the protection of the aerial squadron, their fears of the mechanical beasts had diminished significantly. Even the formidable Chao Feng, capable of launching explosive projectiles, succumbed to the might of the radiant fighter jets, those mechanical beasts resembling bulls would pose no threat to them. Should they dare to reveal themselves, they would meet a swift and merciless demise. At the mountaintop encampment, 5 restless captured bulls swayed uneasily beneath the cover of their shelter. They sensed the circling warplanes above had locked onto their position. The moment they dared to venture a single step outside their encampment, they would be met with a tempestuous onslaught. As the commander of the synthetic battalion, Dong Zhe was acutely aware of this reality. He could only watch helplessly as the enemy surged forth from the opposite mountaintop like a relentless tide. Gradually, the valley's center became densely populated with advancing troops setting up their forward camp. Over a dozen armored vehicles had gathered around the remnants of Chow Feng, attaching their tow hooks to the shattered remains. Buzz, buzz. Under the combined force of the armored vehicles, the 5 remains were slowly extracted from the earth. The sight of this elicited a chorus of jubilant shouts from the enemy. Dong Zhe's face was a portrait of despair and helplessness. Were they truly destined to witness these foes carry Chow Feng's carcass away? The white elephant would undoubtedly seek to replicate Chow Feng for use against the Dragon Kingdom. At that point, not only the Eastern Front, but the entirety of Jiangnan would be perilously threatened. Just then, a transport aircraft emerged from the clouds above, its silhouette gradually becoming discernible. 3 resounding roars descended from the heavens, striking 3 armored vehicles with tremendous force. Boom! Chapter 66, Divine Weapons Descend. The 5th Division descends into utter chaos. Damn it! An airdrop from the Dragon Kingdom? What in the world? Shazan was nearly thrown from his vehicle in astonishment. As the dust began to settle, 3 uniquely shaped mechanical beasts emerged. The soldiers at the mountaintop encampment, their curiosity piqued, gazed towards the valley center, their eyes nearly bulging in disbelief. In the center stood a mechanical beast, with the head of a dragon and the body of a lion, exuding an aura of majesty. Its back swelled, and several honeycomb-like launchers began to whirl rapidly, emitting a high-pitched hum, and instantaneously unleashed an incredibly dense cloud of grayish-white smoke. The smoke was eerily animated, spreading rapidly in all directions. Hiss! The speed at which the smoke enveloped the area was astonishing. In the blink of an eye, it consumed the armored vehicles dragging Chow Feng's remains and the surrounding hundreds of enemy soldiers. The smoke continued to billow upwards without pause. In Kotuk's astonished gaze, it swiftly ascended into the sky. The entire valley was instantly shrouded in a vast electronic fog. The 17 radiant fighter jets above lost their targets, anxiously circling in the air. Their fuel tanks were gradually running low, and without any enemies in sight, they would inevitably return empty-handed. However, there was no need to panic. This mechanical beast, known as the Swan Ni, was specifically designed to disrupt the enemy, with its primary abilities being area concealment and electronic paralysis. Its electromagnetic nanomist had been released, capable of interfering over a maximum range of 3 kilometers. The voice of Hua Qizhong emanated from the loudspeakers on the creature's back. What? 3 kilometers? That's equivalent to shrouding the entire valley's center. Dong Zhe had yet to process this when Shazhan, positioned on the mountainside opposite the valley, suddenly noticed the live surveillance screen before him transform into a blinding array of static. All electronic displays within the command center flickered with garbled characters. Report. All frequency communication is down. The battlefield data link is completely paralyzed. Radar is ineffective. Scanning bands are being disrupted by unknown particles. All signals are lost. Commander, the soldiers are beginning to panic. Our troops can't find their bearings in the smoke. Bad news came in rapid succession. Shazhan, furious, slammed his fist onto the vehicle's communication console. What about the missiles? Have Kotuk launch all the missiles. As long as we can eliminate that mechanical beast, the smoke should dissipate. High above, the 17 hovering glorious fighter jets resembled headless flies. On Kotuk's radar screen, the target marker vanished in an instant, replaced by a chaotic display of flashing static. The piercing alarm echoed through the cockpit. Warning, fire control radar lock failure. Warning, inertial guidance system experiencing severe interference. Warning, target lost. Unable to lock on. Unable to lock on? Then we shall fire blindly. Kotuk maneuvered the aircraft into a falling leaf motion, aiming the nose towards the center of the valley. If visibility was lacking, then let loose a barrage. After all, the valley was not vast. With so many missiles unleashed, there was no way it would survive. All units, concentrate fire. Kotuk pressed the launch trigger with fervor, and the other 16 pilots followed suit, unleashing their missiles. Yet, in the next moment, Kotuk's expression morphed into one of utter dismay. Fuck, my missiles. He watched in horror as the missiles mounted on his aircraft trembled erratically beneath the launch command, then plummeted straight downwards into the thick smoke. Boom! Thunderous explosions erupted. Not just Kotuk's plane, but over 30 missiles, having lost their target data and guidance amidst the chaos, either collided like dumplings or careened awkwardly into the valley. Only a few managed to inadvertently strike the location where the Swan and I had been, but due to the pilot's frantic loss of altitude judgment, they landed far away, impacting the surrounding terrain instead. Radar failure. Missiles without targets. Repeat, missiles without targets. We have become blind. All electronic devices have malfunctioned. The desperate cries of a white elephant pilot intermittently reached Shazan's backup military shortwave receiver. Shazan, powerless, leaned back against the seat, murmuring, "It's over, it's all over." In an instant, the battlefield transformed into a complete blind spot for all white elephant soldiers. From within the thick fog, terrified screams of soldiers echoed. I can't see anything. The compass is malfunctioning. Is this still Blue Star? Who stepped on my foot? Don't shoot. It's our own. Oh, great Lord Shiva. Where am I? Help. Don't run this way. You stepped on my foot. The chaotic sounds of trampling, the blind gunfire, and desperate cries erupted from the mist. The charge of the 5th Division was completely disrupted, leading to infighting. At the mountaintop encampment, over 800 pairs of eyes fixated on the engulfing fog. Listening to the agonizing wails akin to a hellish symphony, the soldiers stood frozen in place. Soon after, suppressed smiles crept onto their lips. Holy cow, a soldier gasped, pointing excitedly down the mountain. Look at those colliding. They self-destructed. The white elephant missiles really blew up their own. A suppressed chuckle erupted from behind a barricade, followed by a second and a third. Soon, the entire mountaintop encampment erupted in waves of laughter. Ha, awesome. The lion truly is formidable. Just puffed out some smoke. And the white elephant missiles hit their own. Ha. A soldier, his face smeared with gunpowder, pounded his thigh, tears of laughter streaming down his face. Let them go wild. 15,000? The combat strength of the A3 is concerning. With so many, they can't even touch our edges. At this level, I wouldn't fear twice as many. Another soldier spat vehemently, raising his middle finger towards the river valley. Did you see? An armored vehicle. The one that charged the hardest just now. It crashed into a mountain while spinning in the fog. A young soldier leaped up, pointing at the fiery explosion at the fog's edge, ecstatic. The long-suppressed despair, humiliation, and determination to die among the soldiers were ignited at this moment by the absurd spectacle of the fog and the enemy's self-destruction. Dongsha swallowed heart. His gaze fixated on the flickering red dot representing the lion on the tactical terminal. Is this the lion? His voice trembled, not from fear, but from an indescribable shock. What divine beings does the Dragon Kingdom conceal? Was all of this caused by a person named Jiang-yi? The entire valley descended into chaos, with the buzzing sound of the lion releasing smoke and the confusion of the white elephant camp ringing out continuously. Dongzhe stared at the vague outlines of 2 other mechanical beasts emerging from the fog, licking his lips, his heart racing. He did not know what they were, but he understood the heavens are about to change. Chapter 67, Sonic Assault. The valley transformed into a butchery. In the heart of the valley, Shazan sat down abruptly, gazing at the dense fog that had consumed the entirety of the 5th Division. His complexion was as pale as parchment, and his lips trembled, rendering him speechless. Yet gradually, a hue of resentment began to surface in his eyes. Damn those Dragon Kingdom folk. I shall not concede so easily, he thought. Deprived of communication, we still have over 8,000 men. Even if we must force our way through, I will charge ahead today. I shall rend those accursed Dragon Kingdom war machines to pieces. Signal officer, fetch me a trumpet. I want everyone mobilized. Soon, a chorus of shouts emanated from Shazan's position, spreading like wildfire. The soldiers, upon receiving the command, seemed to find a rallying point and were instantly invigorated. As long as there was someone to lead, the soldiers would not descend into utter chaos, unless faced with insurmountable odds. Suddenly, a deep, resonant tremor reverberated in their ears. In the 2nd Brigade of the 5th Division, Private DeVille gasped for breath, his hands clamped tightly over his ears. Yet the sound that assaulted his eardrums did not come from the outside. It felt as though countless icy steel needles were piercing directly into his brain, violently stirring within the crevices of his bones. Crouched behind the wreckage of an overturned armored vehicle, he trembled uncontrollably. Surrounding him were the white elephant soldiers, a chaotic mass, their vision utterly obscured by the grayish-white fog, rendering even the faces of those across from them indistinct. They flailed about like headless flies, shoving and cursing one another. Beside DeVille, Chaturji suddenly bent over, retching violently, his complexion as pale as a ghost. My head feels like it's going to explode. When the name of Shiva is that sound. Another soldier screamed in terror, his voice cracking. It's not an explosion, it's vibrating. DeVille's own heart pounded like a frantic drum, each beat heavy enough to suffocate him. An indescribable wave of nausea churned violently in his stomach, rather than a mere vibration. It felt like a weapon of slaughter, specifically designed to wreak havoc upon flesh and blood. A deep, resonant hum suddenly escalated, transforming into a majestic roar that was indescribable. The sound pierced through the fog before Deville, descending upon him with an overwhelming force. In an area of the valley not far from where Dongza and his companions were situated, at least hundreds of clustered soldiers froze in place, as if time had come to a standstill in that confined space. Then, hell broke loose. Pop, 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 pop. The cacophony of explosive sounds erupted sharply, akin to beans being thrown into a pot. Within the area enveloped by the sonic waves, the bodies of hundreds of soldiers suddenly swelled and twisted grotesquely. Their eyes, ears, mouths, and noses felt as though they were being mercilessly crushed from within by an unseen force, bursting forth in thick clouds of blood mist. Their skin tore apart like rags, dark red visceral fragments mingling with fountains of blood that erupted forth. It was not a mere bullet hole, but a gaping wound torn open from within. Hundreds of blood-soaked bodies collapsed to the ground, leaving only an ever-expanding pool of crimson and the acrid scent of rust. Resonance. It was resonance. Atop the mountain, Dongze fixated through his binoculars on that area, his voice quivering uncontrollably. This was a method of killing without bloodshed, shattering lives with sheer force. Beside him, a young soldier, just regaining his composure, cast a single glance before his stomach churned violently. The horror of the scene surpassed that of being torn apart by shells. The valley had transformed into a veritable meat grinder. The dense fog exhaled by the mythical beast served as the perfect mosaic, obscuring the gruesome slaughter. What has transpired? What on earth is happening? Shazan's face twitched with tension as he intently stared at the vehicle-mounted communication device, which flickered with faint signals. Fragmented, distorted images and audio sporadically transmitted. A lieutenant, drenched in mud and blood, his face contorted, screamed at the camera. Divine retribution. It is the wrath of Shiva. My insides are shattered. In the next moment, the signal abruptly ceased, replaced by static. Following that, another live feed emerged. Report from the Western Valley bottom near the retching area. The screen was interspersed with violent sounds of vomiting and splattering liquids, a scene of sheer brutality. In the command vehicle, a pin drop could be heard. All staff wore ashen faces, their throats constricted. Shazan furiously overturned the makeshift sand table before him, scattering the small flags representing various troops across the floor. Useless. All of you are useless. Ravi, Kumar, Sharma. Even in death, you hinder my grand plans. And Kotuk, 18 glorious aircraft could not fell a single mechanical beast. Truly the epitome of incompetence. Upon my return, I shall see him court-martialed. He paced like a wounded beast trapped in a cage, howling in anguish. Damn a dragon country. How many more of these monsters lurk? Just then, at the edge of the valley, a group of soldiers who had barely managed to climb up and were peering down at the chaos below suddenly erupted into greater turmoil. One soldier pointed in terror at the valley below. For heaven's sake, why is the sound drawing nearer again? Another soldier suddenly clutched his chest, his face contorting in agony. Before he could finish his sentence, blood surged from his throat, and he collapsed to the ground. Horrific screams and vomit intertwined into a cacophony. Hundreds of soldiers visibly contorted, bursting apart. An endless mist of blood erupted once more at the fog's edge. Panic spread like a plague from the heights of the valley. Demons. The demons are upon us. Run. Run quickly. The soldiers were instantly paralyzed with fear, fleeing back in terror. The range of the sonic attack has expanded. Just how vast is Paleo's reach? On the hillside, Dongze was suddenly jolted awake from his ecstasy. The voice of Hua Qizhong echoed softly, declaring a radius of complete annihilation spanning 3,000 meters. Moments ago, it had not unleashed its full power. Regrettably, the mechanical beast, Pu Lao, was a one-time creation. As the focal point of resonance, it bore the brunt of the vibrations. Even with a frame of Xuanwu alloy, it could not withstand such intense resonance. Had it not been for the overwhelming number of soldiers from the White Elephant, I would have hesitated to employ it, as it seemed somewhat inhumane. This was true for both Pu Lao and humanity alike. Boom! As if to affirm Hua Qizhong's assertion, a far more resonant roar erupted from the heart of the valley, a definitive release of Pu Lao's accumulated energy. This was a merciless, indiscriminate strike of extinction. A wave of sound, indescribable in its ferocity, emanated from the dragon-headed mechanical beast, sweeping across the entire valley floor and the low-lying areas of the flanking ravines. No longer did the scene consist of sporadic bursts of blood mist. Instead, countless white elephant soldiers collapsed en masse, akin to wheat harvested in the fields. Countless individuals clutched their heads in desperation, their eyes bulging and rolling, their anguished cries reverberating throughout the valley. In the densely packed center of the infantry, thousands of soldiers' bodies ruptured simultaneously with a dull thud. Blood, shattered bones, and internal organs mingled, creating a deluge of sanguine rain. The anguished screams emanating from the armored vehicles near the valley's edge were hauntingly chilling. Yet, the cacophony soon ceased. Even those sheltered within the vehicles could not escape the gruesome fate of their innards being shattered. The entire low-lying area of the Cologne Valley had transformed into a gruesome pot of blood and flesh. Vivid crimson rapidly spread through the dense gray mist. The battlefield fell momentarily silent, save for the low-frequency, tingling resonance of the dragon's roar still humming ominously. Chapter 68. Reverse Control of the War Machine. Charging towards the capital of the White Elephant, Dongzhe watched in horror as the White Elephant soldiers fell in droves within the valley, swallowing hard with difficulty. 3,000 meters, he murmured, the hairs on his arms standing on end. Had the area within 3,000 meters been plowed through? 800 Dragon Kingdom warriors atop the mountain stood frozen, their eyes wide with instinctual fear after witnessing such widespread slaughter. Was this truly a creation of Blue Star? In the command vehicle at the rear of the valley, Shazan slumped in his cold seat, as if all his bones had been removed. Everything is gone, he muttered vacantly, his gaze fixed on the blood-red mist that enveloped the scene. An entire division, 15,000 souls, had been reduced to mere blood and mud in the valley with that single dragon's roar. What aspirations of glory! What plans to seize the Cologne Valley and control the logistical routes? In the face of such an incomprehensible instrument of slaughter from the Dragon Kingdom, it was laughable to the point of despair. Was this truly the essence of the Dragon Kingdom's power? Flee, one must escape. The Dragon Kingdom has indeed devised such inhumane military technology. I must report this to the higher-ups. I shall ensure that the Dragon Kingdom faces condemnation from the entirety of the Blue Star, scorned by all of humanity. As compensation, why not hand over the blueprints of these mechanical beasts to us, the White Elephant? Ha ha ha! Shazan kicked the driver out of the seat, taking command of the vehicle himself as he sped away in the direction from which he came. With the accelerator jammed, the command vehicle swiftly reached a speed exceeding 200 miles per hour. Sweat beaded on Shazan's forehead as he glanced back intermittently, fearful that the mechanical beasts might be in pursuit. However, soon he breathed a sigh of relief. Upon escaping the thick mist, he saw no sign of any mechanical beasts. I have escaped. I have escaped. Blessed be Shiva. Gazing at the expanse of blue sky and white clouds, Shazan's eyes glistened with tears. He felt as though he had just emerged from the depths of hell, overwhelmed by an uncontainable exhilaration. At the mountaintop camp, Dongzhe and the soldiers remained entranced by the horrifying spectacle wrought by the Paleo. Suddenly, the sound in the center of the valley ceased abruptly. The colossal form of Paleo crashed to the ground, reverberating with a tremendous noise. Ho Chizhong's voice resonated deeply, tinged with a hint of compassion and resoluteness. Paleo has fulfilled its mission. He paused slightly before coldly asserting, the battle is not over. The commander of the 5th Division, Shazan, has already fled. Do you have any vehicles left? We cannot allow him to inform others of what Paleo has done. Dongzhe furrowed his brow, glancing at the few light tanks remaining in the camp. Although the light tanks were swift, catching up to Shazan, who had already fled several kilometers, posed a challenge. Shall I give it a try? No sooner had he spoken than the last mechanical beast, which had been standing at the edge of the smoke, silently lifted its head. This mechanical beast, with a dragon's head and a tortoise shell, adorned with countless intricate matrices on its back, was none other than the Fushi. The matrix platform on its shell suddenly lit up with a profound blue light, and innumerable delicate runes seemed to come alive. At the center of the matrix, a dazzling electromagnetic beam shot skyward. As the beam ascended, it transformed into an enormous net, firmly ensnaring the 17 Glory fighter jets, while simultaneously penetrating their flight control cores with unprecedented intensity. Beep, beep, beep. Within the cockpits of the 17 Glory fighter jets, all instruments flickered erratically, and alarms blared in unison. Then, all instrument screens went black. In their stead, a stream of incomprehensible data flowed. What is happening? Damn it. All systems have lost control. Oh, great Shiva. Kotuk gripped the unresponsive yoke with both hands, his heart racing as he watched the aircraft roll uncontrollably. The desperate cries of the other pilots formed a cacophony over the intercom. Yet in the next moment, all the fighter jets stabilized simultaneously. However, Kotuk and the other pilots were filled with dread. Each fighter jet's nose was impeccably aligned towards the same target, a solitary living entity, the command vehicle occupied by Shazam. 17 dazzling fighter jets simultaneously disengaged their missile locks, with fire control radars automatically zeroing in. They moved in unison, like marionettes, seamlessly entering a dive attack trajectory. The piercing sound of air being sliced apart shattered the momentary relief that had just washed over Shazam. What was that sound? Shazam abruptly glanced upward, his pupils contracting to the size of pinheads. 17 shadows of death rapidly magnified within his gaze. You bastards! Have you lost your minds? Look closely. I am Shazam. In the next heartbeat, Shazam's desperate scream was drowned out by the thunderous roar of explosions. Boom! 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 Over a dozen ground attack missiles, produced by the White Elephant, accurately rained down upon the fleeing command vehicle. A ferocious explosion erupted, engulfing Shazam's form and all his frenzied ambitions in an instant. The command vehicle was reduced to scrap metal, tumbling violently towards the earth. This scene was vividly captured by the tactical terminal at the mountaintop camp. Dong Zai stared at the screen, with a fighter jet formation turned and locked on with the precision of puppets, swallowing hard. A chill surged through him. Is this the Fushi? The cold voice of Hua Qizhong confirmed his suspicions. Indeed, the Fushi, a mechanical beast specifically designed for electronic warfare, could infiltrate and commandeer all interconnected devices within its range, especially on a battlefield severely weakened by the electromagnetic fog created by the Swan and I. It thrived like a fish in water. Listening to Hua Qizhong's words, Dong Zai swallowed again with trepidation. Terrifying, truly terrifying. The three mechanical beasts deployed today not only complemented each other, but also possessed unique capabilities, rendering them nearly invincible. Gazing at the harrowing scene of carnage in the valley, a flicker of hope crossed Dong Zai's eyes. With these mechanical beasts guarding the borders, the terrestrial frontiers of the Dragon Kingdom would be exceedingly secure. Who would dare to speak boldly to the Dragon Kingdom again, without first weighing whether they could withstand these mechanical beasts? We survived. We made it. Damn. We'll take care of you in your old age. No, we'll ensure you enjoy your twilight years. Pu Lao is incredibly formidable. He is truly the god of slaughter among mechanical beasts. And the Fushi, which just made its appearance, can even control the White Elephant's fighter jets. Truly unbeatable. Let's not forget the Swan and I. Without its dense fog concealment, we would not have achieved such astonishing results. Just as the soldiers cheered with exuberance, Hua Qizhong's voice rang out once more. To come without reciprocation is impolite. The White Elephant's large-scale assault on the Dragon Kingdom's borders is tantamount to declaring war. We cannot merely drive them back. We must inflict pain upon the White Elephant, just as we did decades ago. As soon as Hua Qizhong's voice faded, 17 remotely controlled glorious warplanes simultaneously surged upward with great force. Like 17 deadly arrows released from their bows, they traced a sharp arc in the sky. Their trajectory clearly pointed towards the capital of the White Elephant, New Delhi.